Welcome to, what's the name of this podcast?
Well, this is a special episode of Going the Distance, the Rocky Series podcast, coming out of the 15th round.
Yo.
So, Ruben, we just finished.
Look, there it is.
We're live.
Spoilers.
Spoiler alert. It's the end of the film.
I'm waiting for the end when all the Marvel guys come out.
That's right.
Give a little taste of what's going to happen next.
There's a cut screen or an ending sequence, I think, of Kang the Conqueror. So, Ruben, what are your thoughts?
I have to say, I really felt for the daughter. The daughter's deaf.
Right.
On the plus side, she can't listen to her mom's music.
Right.
On the downside, she's got that I have the tiger in her. She's got a world of hurt coming up.
Ruben feels bad for the daughter. What did you think?
I enjoyed it. The unfortunate part of enjoying it is that you're always comparing it to Rocky. Rocky 2 is compared to Rocky 1. It's hard to compare it to perfection. So I found myself keep on thinking about Rocky and Adrian, a real underdog story.
Oh, that's fair. Okay.
Yeah, there's an underdog story here, but it's not pure in my estimation, you know what I mean?
No, it's good.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to save it for the podcast. This is a tease, but people want to hear your thoughts because you're.
No, they don't.
Listen, people miss you, Ruben.
I didn't know you were still having a podcast. I had no idea. My apologies. I thought they amalgamated it with another Rocky Stallone thing. What is this? What am I on?
No, this is called One More Round, the Rocky Series podcast. It's with Kyle, your buddy Kyle there, and a new co-host Katie.
Oh, that's right. I met Katie. Well,
Yeah.
online.
This will be inserted into the mega episode, so I'm keeping my thoughts for that.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
So people remember me so well
They remember you,
that
Ruben.
you're redoing it.
Oh, you mean the podcast? You're doing one?
It was that good.
Tell me, folks, in the comments below.
Nobody's commenting. What are you talking about? Do you really have an audience?
No, but people might. Nobody listens, but nobody listens to our show.
Who
But
other than my mother listens to
we
the
got
show?
a few listeners. So, Ruben, is there anything you want to say to the One More Round podcast fans?
Who are you? You don't know who I am.
Let Ruben know in the comments below that he's missed and loved, would you?
Oh.
All right. Join the Discord.
Discord?
We have a Discord. Send us an email. Let us know your Creed 3 thoughts for the mega episode. Check it out. Send us an email. Let us know what you think of Creed 3.
Okay.
Is there anything you want to say, Ruben, to sign off?
Ding ding.
It's another side that wants to take more, and wants to go that one more round, because going that one more round when you don't think you can, that's what makes all the difference in your life. You know what I mean?
Welcome to another episode of One More Round, the Rocky Series podcast. I'm your host, Ryan, and with me today is Kyle. Of course, Kyle, welcome. But Katie is not here. She is hungover at some friend's house celebrating a birthday party. But instead, we have somebody almost as pretty stepping in as the third chair, and that's Mr. Dom. How you doing there, Dom?
Hello. I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. And for those who might already have heard Dom's voice because they listened to my Rambo podcast, Dom guest hosted on the It's a Long Road podcast, episode whatever. I can't remember the number.
15?
Something like that. So
Is it 15?
No, I don't think it's that high, but whatever. We'll say 15, sure. I think there was a 5. Maybe it was episode 5. I think it might have been just 5.
Maybe that's why. Maybe. I
Okay.
don't know.
But so Dom was the guest host on that. And Dom is also, for those who are part of who listen to this show, who listen to the Last of the Action Heroes podcast network, Dom also has a podcast called Movie Thoughts, and he agreed that any of his movies that he reviews on his podcast that fall into the action genre, he said that we could replug onto the network. And so that
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think it's great. Your one episode is already on the network. They Live, and that's on there.
Yes, I love They Live.
So welcome to the
Classic.
network, and you will be my
Thank
co-host
you.
on the Rambo podcast as well. So you'll be hearing more
Yes,
of Dom's
sir.
voice. So this is great.
Yeah, you'll be seeing more of the bald head and listening to my voice. So
Yeah, you chose to be bald. You shaved that thing. You have a full head.
yeah, I chose it. I chose it.
You took control of the situation.
Yes, exactly. That's all you can do.
Well, today, guys, as you know, we have as the title of this episode everyone's seen, it's the Creed 3 review, our reaction review, our thoughts on the movie Creed 3. It goes without saying that we're all huge Rocky franchise film fans. Obviously, Kyle and I have done hundreds of episodes on the Rocky films with more to go. We've shared our thoughts regarding Creed 1 and 2 when we reviewed both films for complete seasons. If you missed those and you're listening to this episode, go check out the back catalog of Going the Distance podcast where we cover Creed's 1 and 2 fully on that show. And we always said that when we came to Creed 3, whether it was the best Rocky film of all time or sort of Rocky Universe film of all time or best film of all time, that we were only going to do one episode. Now, the episode could have been 10 minutes or 5 hours. I don't know. But we were just going to do one episode on Creed 3. Of course, it's going to be talked about throughout other episodes, but as far as we're not going to do a whole season and like a scene-by-scene breakdown of Creed 3. So that's what today's episode is. Still fairly fresh in the theaters. It's been out for about a week and a half. A lot of mixed feelings and emotions regarding the film. We're going to touch on all those things because I think that kind of ties into our discussion. I think this is a unique film. I think it goes beyond just being a film in the Rocky franchise. I think it's divisive in many ways, and I think that plays into people's reactions and reviews. But before we get to that, so when people are listening to this, I did ask for emails from our listeners for their reviews, and we got a lot. I'd say about I don't know the number, but 10 to 20 voicemails and emails total. So we got a lot of reviews. People sending their voicemails. It's great. I think we got about 5 to 7 voicemails, which is fantastic. So, and also emails. Now, of course, for Kyle's time with his family and Dom's time as well with his and your guys' free time, I'm not going to read them all right now with you guys. So I'm not going to do that to you guys because there's just too much to talk about. So what's going to happen is when you're listening to this episode on YouTube or on your podcast audio, I'll be reading the emails at the end. So if you've sent an email, those will be read by me. So someone's got to read them. It won't be Katie, it'll be me. I'll read them and I'll give very quick little cool thoughts. Thank you guys for your thoughts. But that's the whole point. It's their voices, their thoughts. So we're going to share ours and then our listeners will share theirs and I'll read those. And then with the voice ones, same idea. I'll introduce who's speaking and then that will just play to the episode. So everyone's voice will be heard as promised, but we just wouldn't have time to comment on every. If we even spent 3 minutes per email and voice message, that's almost an hour, right? So, okay. So those will be played and read at the end of this episode. So if you don't want to hear it, I guess you can just stop when we're talking. But I think people will be very... I think you'll miss out if you hear people's thoughts and feelings on Creed 3. So we appreciate everyone's mixed reviews. They were mixed. Okay. We'd like to thank everyone that's joined us in Discord. It's a pretty big crowd today, considering the topic. I'm not really surprised. Here we go. Creed 3, the third film of the Creed franchise, the Creed trilogy. Now, I assume you both have seen the film by now?
Yes.
I saw it just last night.
Fresh in Kyle's mind.
Oh,
Okay.
nice, fresh in your mind. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we just... I don't want to just say, what do you guys think? How should we start this? There's so much to talk. Let's talk first about the people that... Not the people, but... Well, yeah, the people that don't want to see the film. Does anyone want to speak to that about just the idea that there are people who are literally boycotting the film? Any thoughts on that approach? Kyle, we'll start with you.
I
then,
think.
Dom.
Okay, yeah, I think that this is the point where this is not a Rocky film anymore. It's obviously because Sly's not in it, but then also behind the scenes because he was not involved in the film. It does, of course, happen in the Rocky universe, but this is the one where it really is the clean break. And so I think it's only natural that you're going to have people who are Sly fans and real Rocky loyalists, I guess, say, no, we're done here. And then also with the behind-the-scenes drama between Stallone and Winkler. We've shared our thoughts on this before on the podcast. My personal opinion is it's to me that's none of my business. I'm still going to watch the Creed film, but in my opinion, the film really has to stand on its own laurels here. Like for me, if I don't enjoy Creed 3, then I'm not watching the Creed films anymore. Whereas I feel like with the Rocky films, if they keep making them, I'll keep watching them as long as they're reasonably good because it's a Rocky film. Creed film, I'm not going to give the same allowance to.
Okay. All right, Dom. What are your feelings on the boycott issue part? Because you've heard of that, right? You've heard those
Well,
feelings.
Of course, I've heard it first person. I had people that I know, friends and family, like messaging me, telling me like I'm not going to see it. Especially being in New York, there's a lot of Italians and people who support Sylvester Stallone. So
I haven't
I
seen
think
so
like
many
what
Italians
you
in one place, like New York. I haven't seen so many Italians.
Okay, so I got to say something real quick.
go ahead.
The city I live in does not have a large black population.
Okay.
Like maybe 3% of people are black.
That much?
But we have a lot of people who immigrate here from like Africa or the West Indies. But anyway, there was like a disproportionate amount of black people at the film, which I thought was cool. But it kind of shows like the shift in demographic of people who like the Creed films.
Okay, so sorry to step on you, Dom, with my stupid joke.
No, you fine. No, so as I was saying, like what you just said, I think Sylvester Stallone was so outspoken about what happened and his feud that it almost is like forcing some people to pick a side, especially longtime Stallone fans. I think people from my parents' generation, I have some older cousins and stuff, and they've just like us, they've known Rocky as Sylvester Stallone's thing their whole life. So having him not be a part of it, I get where you're coming from. I'm on the same page of I'm going to see it, out of curiosity. I was also, I think after Creed 2, you kind of expected Stallone to not be in the next one before all the drama started and stuff, because they kind of give him his little farewell at the end when he gets with his son. But now, because of the drama, I understand where people are coming from as far as not going to see it without Stallone.
Yeah, I understand. I agree. I understand the arguments. Like, I'm not saying that's not what you're saying, but I understand what they're saying. I get what they're saying, but at the same time, I don't agree with it per se. I heard before I saw the film, I won't say who, but somebody I would call an online friend, somebody who I've interviewed on the show, messaged me saying, "Oh, this is gonna be a horrible movie. There's sexual assault. There's all this, like, they made it sound very, horrific. Like, this is not the Rocky spirit." I think they're talking about the sexual assault would have been of course, the backstory with Adonis. I think that might have been the original idea behind it, not just abuse, but it was sexual abuse. But the word was just sexual assault. Like, are we talking Adonis did something, or he's fighting someone that did it, or somebody touched, beyond, like, so. But that's what I mean. So these negative, like, precursors before the film even came out were being thrown at me as a podcaster. People are saying, "Ryan, you can't see this. You can't support this." There's things people should know about me. I don't like when people tell me what to do, and I really, I was raised that way, and I was always told I can't do certain things, and now that I'm, I'm 47 years old, can I do what I want, please? And I don't want Sly to tell me what I can and can't do. I don't want the government. I just really don't want anyone. I would really like this to be my own person, especially when it comes to the entertainment world, and so. I wanted to see,
especially something that doesn't affect anyone else, right?
Of course.
Like your own viewing of Rocky is something to you personally, right? So,
I mean, at the end of the day, there's people that hate the Rocky film. There's people that still say the first Rocky film is garbage. There's people that say that it should have won Best Picture. So, but that doesn't take away from my enjoyment of it. And I don't know why we can't give the same approach to Creed 3. Now, I saw Creed 3 with my brother. At the beginning of this episode, I'm going to put that whole little mini episode with my brother Ruben. He shared his thoughts on the Creed film. And he also, very quickly, we're in the movie theater. There's the soundtrack playing in the background. We just did in the movie theater. And he made fun of me saying, "Do people still listen to your show?" He didn't even know I was still doing a podcast. So that's how much Ruben listens to this show. And I don't blame him. But anyways, so he shared his thoughts. And I'm going all over the place. So, okay. Let's get to the viewing experience. So I went into Creed 3 knowing, of course, what we just talked about, the drama behind the scenes. Of course, we've talked about ad nauseum, Sly's feelings on the matter, his feelings being not involved. But I agree with you, Dom, that Creed 2 ended and like as I was watching the third Creed film, I was even saying to myself, where would Rocky fit? Like, especially after Creed 2 when he says, it's your time, kid. Is that what he said? It's your time, kid. And that's a
Something, yeah.
And that's exactly what happens in Creed 3. It was Adonis's time. This is an Adonis film. Rocky / Sly gave the, hey, I'm done. I've tapped out. I've 8 films. I'm good. It's your time, kid. Now, storyline wise, Creed 3 makes total sense. If you take away the back drama, behind the scenes drama, there was nothing in Creed 3 that made me miss Rocky. I'm saying that right now.
Yeah,
I agree.
I honestly didn't miss Stallone there. I think if he was in the film, he would have done a fine job. And I really liked him in Creed 1 and 2, but like I didn't really feel his absence in the film.
And I love
There was one scene though where Adonis looks, maybe it's Adonis, I don't know who it is. You look at a picture of Apollo Creed in his first fight with Rocky.
Yeah.
But they don't actually show Sylvester Stallone in that picture.
Just his dad. Right.
Yeah, it shows like Apollo punching, and it makes it seem like, oh, Rocky was just out of frame or something like that. And it reminds me of how in I think it was the first Creed film where they had to blur out Apollo's face in some of the images. Like they couldn't use Apollo's image.
Yeah, Carl.
And so I'm wondering if
Carl Weathers pulled a Sly. He didn't want to be involved.
Yeah.
Right. Was that in Creed or was that Rocky Balboa? I don't remember.
The 6th.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right. He didn't want his image in there, right? Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if that's the same reason you didn't see Sly in that picture. Yeah. It seemed like that was the one part in the film where I felt he was absent. I'm like, you can't even have a picture of him. They mentioned the Apollo Creed fighting Rocky.
Yep.
Is a justification for Dame fighting. Shit, I should know the guy's name, but the other fighter.
He played. His name was Dame. Damian wasn't Damian or Dame. Dame was his nickname.
Yeah, but he was fighting the Latino boxer who was the champ. Yeah, they were justifying Dame getting his. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the film.
They were
once.
justifying
I don't
him.
Have all the characters, all the characters' names.
Yeah, I saw it last night. It was the late show, but they said Rocky. They mentioned Rocky fighting Apollo as kind of like a parallel. Like, oh, Rocky got this shot, so he should get the shot. But that's really the only mention of Rocky they made. Like Rocky, and Sly were really visibly absent from the film. But I honestly didn't mind. Like I was very surprised how well it carried over to being just a Creed film and how comfortable I was with that.
Yeah, I can't help but feel that, like you guys said, I think he must have had something to do with that too, Sylvester Stallone, because it seemed like I don't want to say I didn't miss his presence. I agree with you there, but I definitely feel like they maybe forced even mentioning the name. There was like one part where they mentioned Rocky Balboa. Yeah, I think. And then earlier in the movie, they kind of tiptoe around it and don't say it. So I did feel that, but who knows?
We'll read some of the comments in our Discord because that's why we're doing this. So people are here live for this. Dan said he check out his gaming YouTube channel called Retrospectors. Dan said, I think Rocky could have showed up when Adonis was training. That could have been a place he could have fit in, sure, to fight Damian. And could have been Adonis' corner in the ring. Or I would even say even ringside supporting. And I thought about this because I know that would be the obvious place to put the Rocky character in this film. My only response to that is, and not towards Dan, but anyone who thinks kind of the same thing about Rocky should have been in this and the character should have been in this and Sly or the character, both. You know, they put Sly and Rocky together, right? My response is the character's 75 years old or whatever, knows, you know, mid 70s to late 70s, right? The character. And he went to Vancouver to be with his son, Vancouver, Canada, to be with his son and grandkid. He's happy. He's just resting. He's done. Like, in all honesty, at some point, he's sort of done, right? And he's given everything he needs to Adonis. And if you could even argue, Mickey was done with Rocky. Like, in part 1, he was done. It wasn't until Rocky really insisted. If Rocky had really decided to retire and he just, let's say Adrian had an uncle that was rich and they inherited like $10 million, Rocky would have fought again, and Mickey and Rocky would never, the trainer the trainer and the trainee would have separated peacefully, but they would be like, hey, good luck with your life and good luck with yours. I think that's all that happened with Rocky. I don't think he loved Adonis as much as Mickey loved him. And I think it was just like, okay, we had a good time together and you became champion and I helped you become champion. And he's living with his grandkid, right? Like, he's happy is what I'm getting at. Pulling him back into the drama of Adonis's life is kind of like, let the poor guy rest. That's kind of how I viewed it. Let Rocky rest. Let him rest. I like that idea.
What I found interesting is like, we don't know if Rocky's alive or dead or what's happened to him at all. Like, what I would have, first of all, I'm glad we didn't see a Rocky gravestone or something.
No,
God, like, that would have been a real fuck you to this. I think they knew better to do that. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I would have walked out. I would have started crying and walked out.
Yeah, that would have. I think they know they couldn't go that far
because they know the
but
Rocky
then on the other hand,
still going. They can't.
Yeah.
So especially to kill him off screen.
The door's still open for Sly, as unlikely as it is that he'd be involved in future films.
It's always about money.
But
right.
What I would have liked to have seen is say Adonis got something in the mail from Rocky. Maybe he got a little piece of memorabilia from one of Apollo's last fights or something like that. Some trunks or a glove or a little boxing thing for his neck or something like that where
Even
Rocky just says, hey, I'm in your...
phone call or something.
That's what I was thinking. Like basically if this stuff didn't happen with the feud, maybe you could have had like a phone call or one extended scene when like Adonis was at his bottom and I had a friend once or something like that. He could have gave a story and then that, but I don't think that would have maybe made people like it who, weren't going to like it anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I think Rocky should have somehow, like, even if like Rocky's not in the film, a letter from Rocky or something, so we at least they acknowledge his existence and acknowledge that he's alive.
I agree with all that. I was thinking the same thing. I think that was the most glaring thing about Rocky's absence was the non-talking about the Rocky. So I think that's my biggest criticism about the absence of the Rocky character, wasn't that he wasn't in it. It was sort of like, was he ever in it? And that was the only. Like, we all know there was like we said, there was a little talk. Yes, Rocky fought my dad, and he was a 1 in a million shot. Let me do the same thing. Like, this was handed to Rocky, and why can't it be handed to me? This is a novelty fight. What's the difference in this situation? So, at least in the universe, they exist. Speaking of the universe, now we know for sure Muhammad Ali does exist in the Rocky universe.
God,
yeah.
So
my God, Ryan, that bothered me so much.
I thought of you.
Muhammad Ali.
He exists.
Yeah.
He exists in the Rocky universe. So where does Ali and Apollo exist concurrently at this time?
Like, it's bad enough that George Foreman was mentioned in Rocky Balboa, because George Foreman is Clubber Lang. Like, there's no question. And so, like, the Rocky 3 fight was the Rumble in the Jungle, essentially. But then now there is an actual reference to the Rumble in the Jungle, which has a specific date. Which actually, the Rumble in the Jungle, to be fair, technically occurred before. Like, it occurred in 1974, so that would have been 2 years before Rocky. So that's like your only out. But I was like, why did you do that? Like,
so did
why?
Apollo win the belt? Did he win the belt in theory from Ali? Is that what we're led to believe?
Well, he also fought Frazier.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, oh.
Yeah, so the Rocky universe, it's space, time, quantum physics continues. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're teasing the audience a little bit. We're teasing the audience. We haven't really said how we felt about the film. Okay, I'll start because I feel like I'm ready to burst here. So I went into the film with, I wouldn't say low expectations. I went in with just, I'm going to watch this. I'm going to just watch it. I'm going to give it a proper watch. I didn't go into any preconceived notions. I'm going to be angry at the film. I know that Rocky's not in it, so I wasn't surprised by that. Again, my only criticism of Rocky not being in it was that they didn't address it very well. So that's whatever. It's not really a negative, but it is. It wasn't addressed very well. Here's the thing. Get ready, folks. Are you listening, Greg the First? Are you still shadow listening? So
you'll never let that go.
I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I had a great time, and I just had fun watching it. And the bullet points for me were Adonis, or the character of Adonis, I was like, I almost had to like, is that Michael B. Jordan? He was a completely different personality. He was likable, he was funny, he was smart, he was wise, but then he had his dad's business smarts. Now, I saw one of the criticisms I saw in one of the emails, I'll talk to this a little bit, but I'll read at the end of the episode, was because Michael B. Jordan was in charge of the film, he made himself look really good. And now my argument to that is, so? Didn't Rocky do that or Sly do that for part 3 and 4? Like, really? So, like, that, no offense to that person who said that we'll read it later, but my argument is that Sly did that in all the films. He looked amazing. He always came out on top. He's the best. He saved the world, stopped Cold War. So, like, Sly always put himself in a good light as the underdog, mind you. But what I liked about this film was there was no underdog. That I liked. Adonis was the champ, and he was a legit champ, and he never fought. So when he fought Damien again, this will be a spoiler episode, so everyone was listening now, spoilers for the rest of the episode. So when it came time for him to fight Damien at the end, I knew he was going to win. That wasn't a question. I knew he was, because he's a better fighter. Like, we knew that Damien was a beast. He had that clubber length, kind of like, he's just a freaking beast, but he didn't have the skill. We all knew he didn't have the skill despite his power and his strength and some of his natural skill, right? But that's what I liked about this film, is like, it was the backstory, their friendship, the betrayal. Now, I'll say this too. I went in without seeing one trailer. I knew nothing about this film. I never read one review, never saw the trailer. I went in completely blind. Of course, I knew Jonathan Majors was the antagonist, but I didn't even know they had a backstory. I didn't know they were friends. I didn't know he went to jail. I didn't know anything. So people that saw the trailer, maybe they didn't have a good... So I went in blind. So I actually got to watch the story unfold, not knowing anything. So when they were like kind of friendly with each other and Damien betrays Adonis at the beach and all that stuff, I thought it was a great heel turn. I thought it was done very well. And I was just taken with the drama. And that's what this film needed to do for me to enjoy it, was tell me an original story. And I've seen criticisms like, this is Rocky 5 and 3. That's ridiculous. Adonis never trained Damien. I thought that's a very weak argument. This is a Rocky 5. He never put Damien under his tutelage. He just gave him a break. So anyways, I loved it. I loved the resolve that they had at the end. I don't know where I could score this film, because it's tricky, because I think I could score it higher than some of the Rocky films, if that makes sense. Of like, it looks good. It's well acted. Jonathan Majors, I'll say this, Jonathan Majors Damien, of course, stole the movie. We all know it's not really a hot take, but the hot take might be, I don't know, his villain take or antagonist take was one of the strongest I've ever seen in the franchise. I don't know, thoughts? There you go. That's my quick thoughts there. I want to hear from you, Kyle, then you, Dom.
Okay, I came out of that movie feeling good. Like you, I didn't have huge expectations for it. Like I'd said in previous episodes, if this movie sucks, I'm not seeing Creed movies anymore. Like, I'm done with it. And what I really, like you, I did not want just a reboot of some previous Rocky episode. And I had that in my mind while watching it. I'm like, okay, is this like Rocky 3 or is this like the other one? And I was like, no, not really. Like, it is kind of its own thing. Like, there is some parallels, of course, but there's so many Rocky films, you're going to find parallels at some point.
Agreed, yeah.
But overall, I felt quite good. I liked Michael B. in it. I liked his relationship with his daughter in the film.
It was sweet.
As someone who has a daughter of similar age that related to me well, I liked that they used a lot of sign language and stuff like that in the film. It kind of shows, like, Donnie's growth as a person. Like, he took the effort to learn that, and he's kind of focusing on his family, which I liked. I had some issues with the film in the sense that there were a lot of things, because you have like the so-called willing suspension of disbelief, right? Where it's like, you know that this is not how things in boxing really work.
Sure.
You know, some of the fights, people can't get punched like that for so long. You understand that it's a movie, so it's okay. But I found there were some things like Damien's title shot. I had a really hard time accepting that.
Sure.
Someone who never had a pro fight. And they attempted to address that in the movie. It's not like they ignored it. But I found their justification for it pretty weak.
Sure. Yeah.
So there's things like that that kind of, I'm like, you're trying to force this in. Like, I feel like they could have been a little more creative with the story there. Like, maybe Damien got out earlier, or maybe you could show Damien having some pro fights at least.
I think that's why they kept pushing the Golden Gloves thing to show that he has some sort of... Right. But
yeah, like he wasn't like... Yeah, I agree. I agree. They like...
No, I was going to say, I totally agree with that. That was one of the weaker... It was a total plot device that it was his buddy or cellmate that hit the arm. I was like, where did this come from? And we all knew right away that this was some sort of... As a setup, you know, the whole... taking this guy
It was handpicked.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you can't have a heavyweight champion in the world with one fight.
Right.
Yeah, I love
And
that
that's
one
his
and all.
heavyweight championship fight. Yeah, he's like, okay, in the second fight, where they're like, Damien, the undefeated, undisputed heavyweight champion. I'm like, that's technically true. It's technically true. There are a lot of young pros who have won their first fight that are also undefeated, but that doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
So stuff like that bothered me, but it wasn't a deal breaker for the film.
Right.
I also found that Damien wasn't that much of a villain for me, to be honest. Like, I felt bad for him in a lot of ways.
That's
like the guy
good about it. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, like he ended up in prison. He's lived in, like, I've never been to prison, but from what I understand of prison, it's like you really have to look out for yourself. It's a dog-eat-dog environment. There's a lot of manipulation. There's a lot of things that goes on in there. So this guy getting out of prison and wanting to make a life for himself and making that happen, that even though I don't agree with his methods, I could see that. Like, I felt like they almost had to make him like an asshole in some scenes just so we would understand he's the villain. Like that scene on the beach and stuff like that. Like they had to insert that to make him seem like the villain. But overall, I'm like, I almost kind of cheer for this guy a little bit.
You feel bad for him for sure.
He kind of reminds me of Clubber Lang. Clubber Lang actually was never wrong about anything, other than he was a jerk.
Except for the outburst at the ceremony, the statue ceremony.
Yeah, that's it. Like they had to give him that. Well, even then, everything he said there was accurate, except that this thing towards Adrian about how she should come to his apartment. But otherwise,
hey woman,
he has an abrasive tone. But what he was saying was exactly true. Like he's just he's rough around the edges, but him pushing Mickey was another thing that was bad. But otherwise, Clubber Lang was not really that much of a villain, other than he just is scary. And Damien kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah. No, that's
But anyways,
no, that's good. No, absolutely true. We had to make it. But even when Adonis was fighting in the ring, I don't think you guys, maybe you guys as well, but I didn't feel like beat him to a pulp, Adonis. I think that was intentional. We knew that he was fighting a friend, and I like that idea that, you know, when he said the only way to kind of get a message to this guy is I just got to beat him up in the ring. You know, we all kind of agreed with that. It's like, you know, that's the only message he's going to receive. That's his type of personality. He's got to be humbled, and the only way to humble this guy is to humble him in the ring. And Adonis was right. You know, it might be a plot device, but that's, you know, to get him in the ring. That's what I mean. Like, we knew he was going to win. He's a better fighter than Damien, you know?
Yeah. And one thing I found interesting, too, and I know my review's getting kind of long here, and I went into many more detail than I should have, but one thing I found interesting is there was a lot of crying on Adonis's part. Like, he cries in, like, kind of, I think, multiple scenes. And you see Rocky cry, or kind of almost cry in several scenes in the movie, so there is precedent for that. But like, when you have a film where it's like really macho type of guys, I think it's interesting that you have that kind of juxtaposition where you have him talking to his wife, and her constant criticism of him is he's not opening up, right? So it deals with a lot of feelings and stuff too. So I felt like it was fairly balanced there as well.
Okay, Dom, your overall feelings and review of the film too.
I went in, I think, the same as you guys. I really didn't go in with much expectations. I mean, I liked Creed 2, but I was also at the same time like, all right, I don't know. At that point, I didn't know that I wanted to see more of the story. I was fine. I figured they would do a Creed 3. Overall, I think I like it. I'd have to watch it again to really get a grasp. I usually watch movies a couple times to get a grasp, but I do feel now it's so, and I guess that's the point, it's so disconnected from the Rocky franchise at this point that I can't even really look at it as a Rocky movie. I think that Jonathan Majors was great in it. I think if somebody else was playing that role, I might not have liked the movie as much. I think he was, like you said, where you said, it was hard to kind of root against him. I think that just was, showing the quality of actor he is. And with that performance, he was likable, even though, he's supposed to be the bad guy, he's likable. And you have mixed feelings when they are fighting. Not that I expected him to win in that fight, but, he has his reasons. I thought there was some funny stuff in the storyline when it came to, like, they're friends, and obviously they reveal that, he set up that attack on Drago's son and got his spot in the fight. But I felt like it was strange when, like, even when he won that fight with the Latino guy we were talking about earlier, like, I know he gave him cheap shots and stuff, but Adonis's, reaction to that felt a little mixed too, because it's like, didn't you put this guy in this situation to fight and have a chance at the championship? And now he won, and he's kind of like, he went against him right after that. Also, there was some stuff with, like, the way they were aging up Michael B. Jordan and how he's supposed to be kind of like retired, and he's in such great shape and he's so young that I couldn't, like, believe it at some points. Plus, he's, like, around the same age I am, so then it makes me say, am I old? I don't know. They were making him when he was training.
Do we know
right,
his age?
right,
Do
exactly.
we know his age? The age factor
in
is all over the
movie,
place.
Right, because I think it's like 3 years passes by from the beginning of the movie to his retirement.
There's
So,
the
like,
opening sequence fight when he's fighting. Was it Wheeler? Is that the name? Wheeler?
yeah,
Conlon.
Conlon.
He has the rematch against Conlon
Yeah,
at
so
the beginning of the
that's
film.
right. So he wins the belt there. Am I right about that, or did he retain the belt? I can't even remember now.
Yeah, he retained the belt. That was his final.
I think, yeah.
That's right. That was
Okay,
his retirement-
timeline?
That was his retirement fight, win or lose. He won, and then he retired with the belt, and then 3 years passed, I think is what it was. After
Right.
that.
Right.
I want to point out something quick. This movie technically took place in 2020, not 2023.
Fair enough.
It's very clear because it shows 2002
Yes.
is when the incident happened.
And he spent how
And
many
then
years
it says, well, no, just hear me out here.
Okay.
It says 15 years later, and it shows the fight with Conlon in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in 2017,
Right.
and then a 3-year retirement from there. That makes us in 2020.
That's right, because he said he spent 18 years in prison. Did he not? Was it 18 years?
Yeah, which is also 2002. That would be 2020 as well. So this is a 3-year. It's like 3 years in the past.
But this is what's
Like
confusing.
this would be during the pandemic.
Well, this is
Right. It's
also
almost as confusing as the timeline of Rocky V.
It's the really it is almost. We talked about this in our Creed review, and of course Kyle remembered this. So in Creed, the first Creed film, Adonis was 30, because if you actually, that was the actor's age. So Michael B. Jordan's age in 2015 was 30. The character was 30 because it was 30 years after his dad banged one of the dancers in Rocky IV. Adonis was born. So it actually kind of worked. It was all about the same timeline, that give or take 6 months. He was a child of one of the dancing girls. That's what we figured. That was the mother. Mother Bennett is Adonis, yada, yada. But then in Creed Part 2, you remember, Kyle, what his age was in Part 2? They de-aged him. He was 27.
Yeah, that's right. Oh,
I didn't
another
realize
thing that
that.
bothered me timeline-wise in Creed 1, 2. In Creed 2, Adonis magically becomes a heavyweight and everyone's heavyweights.
That's
Now, at the beginning of the second fight, they're like, former light heavyweight and heavyweight champion of the world.
Right.
And I was like, what? You can't do that. Like, pick one.
It's not how it works.
So the timeline's all over the place, because even in Creed 2 came out in 2018, right? So if he's 27, then the years don't work out at all, real world wise, with the film wise, with when when he was conceived by Apollo. So it's like, okay, so now what age is he really?
Right.
Because then if he's 27 in 2018, then sure, in 2020 he's 29. I'm all over, because in 2002 when he beat up that adult outside the convenience store as a kid, how old was he there? Because that was 20 years previous.
14 or something, right?
Right,
Or
so
10, 12.
So generally speaking, the ages work. I know we can't figure, but that's the thing. The exact age is a complete unknown. There's no way of knowing. The timeline
Right.
is screwed. Like I gotta give I gotta give props to Adonis, or sorry, I gotta give props to Michael B. We thought Sly was crappy with the with the timeline. Michael B, you really messed up the like. I give full credit to Michael B.
When he got off the
give
plane
Jake-
in Russia and his kid was 40 years old.
Yeah. Like they had that scene. It's like Los Angeles, 2002. Don't do that. Just say Los
No.
Angeles. Show a young Creed. Leave some
Right.
mystery there.
Sometime before, it's a long
Yeah.
time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, you see Creed as a young kid, so you understand this is in the past. Please don't torture me by putting dates and numbers in and having me try and reconcile everything.
So the timeline, quantum physics in the Rocky universe is amazing. It continues. The tradition continues. All right. Well, I just want to read some of the comments in Discord, and then we're going to open the mic to whoever wants to go first. Louise, we'll start with you, and if anybody else wants to join after Louise, just take 3 to 5 minutes, share your thoughts, and we'll comment on your thoughts afterwards, so you get your voice on the mic. Oh, Louise just popped on. He didn't even wait. He just jumped on. So Louise, just wait 1 second before you start. Before you start.
I love how Louise has Rocky going on behind him on screen.
Louise. We love Louise.
Amazing.
So before you start talking, Louise, just wait. I'm going to read some of the comments here. These are some good comments. So Dan said, actually Louise said, this was funny. Louise said, if Rocky had $100 million, he'd still find a way to lose it all. Yeah, it's very good.
100%.
Paulie.
Dave said that Adonis is a better father than Rocky.
Who isn't?
Yeah, who isn't? It says here, Donald said, do we know Apollo's record? I believe the only person that beat Apollo was Rocky in time. Is that not right?
They never
And then he got
mentioned how
beat
many
to death.
wins he has, though. Maybe it was written down somewhere.
So, Louise, you can talk
46.
now. Louise, go on the mic. So you got a record there, Louise? Do you know what it is?
Yeah, I believe in the first movie, 46 and 0,
I can't hear
all
him now.
finished.
So you said 40-0?
46 and 0,
46.
and they were all knocked. And that's why he wanted to fight Rocky again, because Rocky was the only guy who didn't stop. So that was the whole thing. He was 47 and 0, I guess, going into the rematch with 46 KOs, and then Rocky finally beat him, and that was the end of his career until Drago killed him.
What is your thoughts on Creed 3? I assume you saw it, and I want to hear the Louise unfiltered thoughts.
Yes, sir. So I actually saw it twice. The first time I planned, the second time I went to see Cocaine Bear, and I snuck in to see Creed again. It was kind of interesting because the second time I watched it, because I call him Michael C. Jordan, because to me he's just average. The bottom line is that on paper, Michael C. Jordan clicks off all the checklist, but he's got the tools, but he just don't have the heart. He ain't got the heart. It seems like he's trying to be something he isn't. Whereas with Dame, as soon as he comes on screen, that dude just like, oh, that's him. That's Dame. Like, he's a mannerism. He just embodies somebody who would have been in prison and has that kind of like carrying that way of life. Whereas with Adonis, I feel like everything is contrived. It's not there. Like, I think Michael B. Jordan's great, maybe in the conversational scenes, like Kyle brought up with the sign language about all that was great. I do think he shows emotions in those kind of settings pretty good, but it's interesting because he did an interview with some chick that he used to be friends with, that he went to school with. And she's like, yeah, we went to school together. And he was mad because, yeah, didn't you call me corny? Or something like that. And at first I was like, yeah, man, like, you've made it in life, whatever. He wants to be more than he is. And it's like, dude, like, brother, you check all the boxes on everything we all want in life. Just be happy being yourself. So that's one thing. I'm never going to have that connection to Adonis like I do to Rocky, just because how Michael B. Jordan just portrays the character. The other issue I have is just they use so many real life commentators, the ESPN, all that, but then, like Kyle says, you have this guy gets a title shot in his first fight, and I guess maybe they were kind of, because potentially the better route would have been to have Donnie maybe train him a little bit, or have him under his wing a little bit, give him a few more wins, and then a couple of years pass, and then all of a sudden, hey man, it's my time to get the championship fight. But obviously that happened in Rocky 5 or something that, Rocky 3 train. So I guess they didn't want to rehash that. It's just so off-putting to me where so many things are based in reality, but then there's just all this hot shotting that's going on. And then even Don mentioned it too. Whenever the fight ends with Chavez and Dame, and Donnie is just not sure how to act, like, dude, like, have a normal reaction. Don't try to like force this. Dame carries the film. I think he's the heart of the film. You feel his pain because it's like Donnie just left. As soon as Dame wins, all of a sudden he's big time. He has like an entourage. It's like, dude,
Yes.
you have money and
For sure.
Hey, I'm the champ. I don't take anything. You haven't done anything. Get a rematch first. Get some money first. Get some fights. For me, just to like, okay, yeah, this is a Creed, man. This is a Creed film. No, to me, it's still Rocky Universe. I think they did the best they could to not include Rocky. However, because of Rocky's behavior in previous movies, how he'd fly across the country just to go see Donnie on a whim, and now all of a sudden Donnie's like at the end of his career, all this stuff going on, and we don't even see Rocky. So while I get they don't want to have Rocky in the film, I also think, wait a minute, based on his previous behavior, how he's willing to do anything for Donnie, nothing for his kids, but for Donnie, he'll like move all over the place, and now we don't see him. Like, there could have been an explanation. Like, yeah, he's in Vancouver. I think that's left up to the audience to assume that. But I think there could have been something up to like, okay, yeah, Rocky. No, he's with his family now. So yeah, that's pretty much my take on it.
All right, thank you so much, Luis. I'm gonna hang up on you, but we'll talk about your thoughts there and give the mic to somebody else. So thank you, Luis. We appreciate your support. We love it. Good take. Thank you. So thank you, Luis. He's one of our faithful listeners of our show. We appreciate his support. He's awesome. We love Luis. He's my favorite Mexican from Colombia. Okay. Every time. I always forget where he's from, but he always tells me. I always forget. Okay.
Yeah, Luis is the man.
Awesome.
I always like Luis's take.
Yeah, he's a character. I love him. Let's see here. So this is a great question from Dave. He wants to know our thoughts on the dream sequence. Why don't we start with you, Dom, then you, Kyle?
What?
The dream.
Wait,
the
yeah,
dream,
which sequence?
The dream sequence in the fight. The
In the fight.
So we'll start.
Yeah,
We'll start with Dom, then we'll go to you, Kyle.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
I thought some of it was cool. Some of it I felt was just like too much. Like when they were like screaming at each other. I appreciated the fact that they were showing them one-on-one. I liked that. And then at one point, it seemed like there was like a steel cage around the ring. It took me a little bit out of it, to be honest. I'm more of a traditional boxing scene. Even like the scene in Rocky Balboa when it's supposed to be like an HBO fight. I like to see the more traditional boxing match. So it took me a little bit out of it.
That's fair. I like that comparison. I understand that. Yeah, Kyle.
Yeah, I didn't like it. The jail bars specifically is what made me say this is going too far. Like when it was just the two of them all of a sudden fighting, I was like, okay, like I guess so. I like the crowd. I feel like the crowd is an integral part of the fight. Like you remember the pandemic when like you'd watch, I don't know other sports. Like I only watch hockey because I'm Canadian, but
it was lame though.
it was weird watching hockey games without the crowd. Like it was almost like this weird sterile environment. Like the crowd's important, and I feel like that way with boxing too. And so, for me, a brief shot of no crowd, just them fighting, and maybe things go slow, and there's different effects, or you have a memory flashback, something like that. I could work with that as long as it's not all the time in the fight. But once you start adding weird shit like the jail bars, I'm like, nope, good try. I know you're trying to, you got to try it. Like, you got to try something new. I understand that. But sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And in this case, they lost, I think.
Okay. So what's worse, the dream sequence or the street fight? Rocky 5.
Oh, God. Oh, I love the street fight in Rocky
there you
5.
go.
I didn't mind it, yeah.
That's just my.
I'm gonna put you through the street.
I always harp on that street fight, not because the street fight happened, but because it ended on. I always just say if they just had Tommy Gunn fights in the ring, he only fights in the ring. You know, if they at least ended with that, that's all. I said they could have had a street fight. I'll talk about ad nauseum. They could have had a street fight, but then it still has a ring.
My ring's outside.
My ring's outside.
I wish. I still, for the record, I wish they would have their final fight in that church.
Oh, yes.
In Rocky Balboa.
Rico Church.
Yeah, where it's not like a sanctioned boxing match, but it's still a boxing match and not a street fight. And then you
that
had
would've
Rocky starting to fight in that church, and then his last fight's in that church, and it would have wrapped up nicely. But I was only 5 at the time that movie, 6 when that movie came out, so they weren't going to take my suggestions back then.
I saw that. Like I said, I saw part 5 in the theaters at 15, and I was like so mad. Not at the film to that point. I was so mad they ended there. That's all. I was like, no. The Ryan fan, Rocky ends in the ring. Rocky ends in the ring. So I didn't like again, but a brave choice, a different choice. Again, that's what I think Adonis. I do this all the time with Sly. That's what Michael B was doing with this film. You had to do something brave. You had to do something different. Sly did it, like Dom said there. I totally agree. The HBO style fight to make it seem realistic. This is what the people at home would see if this was a real fight type sequence. It's a brave choice, but I also agree it didn't quite work. I think Rocky Balboa's fight sequences didn't work. I'm sorry. I'm not a big fan of it. I didn't like the whole, I like the over-the-top type punching sounds.
Exactly.
Because it is a movie. I'm not watching a documentary. So I think Sly kind of stumbled on that, making that, or he could have done part of it that way, part of the shots, just to remind the audience that people are really watching this on pay-per-view, but then also show what the audience, the theaters are seeing. They could have done something like that. But then with this film, I applaud Michael B. or Michael C. I love Michael C. as Louise called. I applaud that he did something a little bit different. And Dave, I think, is kind of where I am. Dave said this. He goes, it was a subtle way to convey that they were fighting more than just each other. They were fighting their past too. So it was a story. So it took us out, but I kind of liked that because it was showcasing, yes. I mean, obviously, they're hitting you square in the face with this subtlety. I don't know if it was that subtle. But the idea that they were fighting their past, they had a history with each other, that they were alone in the ring, that despite the crowd, despite whatever that got them there, this is something they had to hash out. This was 20 years in the making. So they left it all on the table. So now we're being asked by Simon. By the way, Simon, our favorite filmmaker, is in the chat. He's going by Pie Hawker. Simon wants to know what we thought of the montages. Kyle, why don't you start with the montage? I guess the training montage.
Oh, yeah. It didn't seem like it was that significant to me. Like, the Rocky films, the montages even are recognized by people who are not Rocky fans.
Right.
Like, that's well known. The montage is huge in the Rocky films. And with Creed 2, his training was significant because they had to switch things up and he was out in the desert and doing things like that. I did not really feel much about the montage. It wasn't negative. Like, I was like, this is fine. There's nothing objectionable in the montage. But I really didn't feel pumped up. Like, I almost felt like it was doing a montage for the sake of it. Like, okay, well, it's a Rocky Universe film. You must do a montage now. There was nothing super special about their training. Nothing where, like, they're trying something new or, like, you really got to see these guys' physique, especially Dame. Like, when he's using the 2 ropes with his arms and stuff, like, that was kind of neat to see. That was cool. But, like, I don't know. I found it underwhelming, and I didn't mind that. But I think the Creed movies have their own style, their own thing, and I'm not going to judge them based on the Rocky movies, and I'm not going to expect them to have, like, to follow the exact same format or the exact same significance or everything. So I'm really just meh on the montage.
Dom?
Yeah, I think I agree with your sentiments. Like, I felt like it was an afterthought, to compare it to Creed 2. That was the one with the desert, right?
Yeah.
That one was more memorable. I felt like, and then I also, like, it tiptoed around like ridiculousness too, because when he was pulling was he pulling a jet or something at one point? Wasn't he pulling a small plane?
A small plane
of some sort, yeah.
And then when he was punching the
Tree.
The large tree.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, you're gonna break your hands. I mean, that's not really, Rocky was punching meat. I get that, but he's punching a tree. I don't know if that was the proper, the smart thing to do before a real fight.
He's a vegetarian, so he's got to punch trees and not meat.
But I definitely, the most memorable part was definitely Jonathan Majors, pulling himself up, like you said. Other than that, it felt like it was just gone in a second.
Right.
Anyway.
It wasn't and I think it was two theories. I agree with what your guys were saying. I think I felt the same way. I don't think I didn't get hyped.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get hyped because, again, there was nothing in my mind that told me that Adonis was going to lose. storyline wise.
Right.
Also, just within the universe, he is a better fighter. I don't think any one of us thought that.
Right.
Because he's a better fighter. He's his dad almost to a T. He's an incredible fighter. He's got his dad's DNA, and he actually retired a champion. You know, he didn't get killed in the ring.
Right.
So he's a better fighter than the character Damien. Like, so the training was still had to get done. Like, yeah, I'm going to train. I'm going to take it seriously. I'm not going to go in lightly like my dad. I'm going to take the training seriously. But there was no, I wasn't worried, and so there was nothing.
Yeah.
You know, so his training for me was more of like, yeah, you got to train. It's pretty cool. And I kind of like, again, they were different with things. I get that. But I'll say this. The reason why Rocky V failed as well, and I love that film, but the reason why it failed as well, two reasons. One, because the fight didn't end in the ring. I'm still going to stand by that. I tell you, if they had a fight in the ring, people wouldn't hate as much. Two, the reason why it failed a little bit as well is because the training montage in 5 was Tommy's rise. That was
Rocky Jr. training.
That's right, the Rocky puppet training. So because of that, there's again, we're not invested in this character, and so the training, even though it was a training montage or a rise to success montage, you know, with the R&B music, whatever, irrelevant. Actually, it's not a bad track. It's funny enough, but you know, it's kind of fun.
Go for it.
Yeah, go for it. I love it. Anyways, the idea is it's his rise. Now, imagine again if we had the street fight earlier in the film, and then they have a fight in the ring to really settle it properly, and we got to see Sly train at that older age, and then we would have been losing our minds. So, and so in this film, because we weren't invested in Adonis's, we weren't worried and or invested. The training montage was like, it's kind of fun, whatever. It was different. I was indifferent to the montage. Yeah.
I think the stakes too. You know, I mean, like to compare it to other Rockies and stuff. You know, Rocky IV, that training, his best friend just got beat to death in the ring. He's training to go possibly get beat to death. You know, Rocky III, he gets his ass kicked by Mr. T, and then he's going to have the rematch. In this movie, it was kind of, they spend so much time focusing on Jonathan Majors' character that, like, I don't know, I didn't feel like they put that much effort into Adonis's story even. He's just kind of there at that point.
I agree. And one thing I want to mention is there was a first in here that's never happened in the Rocky universe ever. In the Rocky universe, we do see fights that are between two people that are not the main character. Like, for instance, we see Clubber Lang beat up a bunch of people in succession, but you only see it for a few seconds. This was the first film where they, like, in Rocky V, you have Tommy Gunn with his fights, but Tommy Gunn is...
Versus
yeah.
For the Devils were oof.
But, like,
I want to fight.
I guess it's not really... Yeah. I guess it's not really a first time, but it's like you have a major fight that is not... Like, Adonis isn't even in the fight. Like, it's a full fight sequence where it is... You have the... Like, you're almost cheering for Dame in that fight, right? Like, it's... This Chavez... I guess that was his last name.
I think it was.
You have no connection to him.
Life. He seemed like. Did they get? Is this a situation where they got? Maybe people could let us know in the chat. I got a. Me and Ruben were talking about during the film. I just had a gut feeling he was a real fighter that they used in the film. People let us know.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. All right, sorry.
But like, we have no likability with him at all. Yeah. We don't know him. All we know is he beats up sparring partners mercilessly, and no one wants to fight him.
Yeah.
So he kind of seems like a bit of an asshole at the early,
not a villain,
but like not too much. But yeah, I think there's no reason to like him at all.
I had like sympathy for him though, like when he won and he was just like, Adonis, I did it, I did it, and like Adonis is just kind of like, you kind of felt bad for him too. You're like, all right, he did what you wanted him to do.
Well, I actually had a different feel for that. So like this Dame guy seriously hurt Chavez. And did not give a shit. Now, the way I reconciled that in my mind is this guy just came from 20 years in prison. Exactly. Where you're desensitized to people getting brutalized, right? Like he probably saw dozens, if not hundreds of people stabbed or beat up to, whatever, right? So him seeing Chavez on the ground like that probably wouldn't faze him. So that, in my mind, maybe reconcile it a bit. But I'm like, you showed zero concern that this guy like could be dead on there.
In all fairness, though, I feel like Adonis should have known the psychopath that he was putting in the ring with this guy. It was his friend for life. Like,
true. I think actually Dame, Adonis is a better fighter. I guess this is my hot take, only because he's more experienced.
Yeah, no, I think experience
So
obviously played a factor. Absolutely, he had 20 years of
Because
training
Dame-
or whatever. Yeah.
Has no pro. He had one pro fight
Yep.
where he beat the shit out of the world champion, albeit somewhat in a dirty manner, right? Like he
Right.
elbowed him. He was punching his arms.
He
Like
had the Spider
but
Rico.
still-
He was fighting like a Spider Rico.
Yeah, still though, you someone with no pro fight should get their ass kicked by the world champ, right? And then
Right.
they said in the second fight, when it came into round 12, this is an even fight. And you could say, okay, well, Adonis is past his prime. Fair enough.
But
he was still in good fighting shape.
Damien's older too. They made a point of that too. I think
Yeah.
I think they were addressing the fact that Damien. I agree. They were kind of addressing the fact that Damien may, in an alternate universe, been a better fighter than Adonis. That was the whole point.
Yeah, he would have been. He would have been. I think he's more physically capable than Adonis, and he seems to have more natural ability. Like, if you could fight that well and keep up at that level with basically no experience, other than prison fighting, then, you know, if Damien had 26 fights under his belt, he would be a more dangerous fighter, I think.
So we know that Damien also did not go to the school of Mickey's gym because Damien was like a master blocker. He was like a master blocker
Yes.
with this he was like a master blocker.
Yeah, they blocked punches. Adonis still doesn't block punches.
Well,
he either
was
slips
trained
or
under
gets
Rocky.
hit.
He was trained under Rocky.
Yeah, he got the Rocky school of a mix. Like he'll either
A little
slip,
brain
punch like
damage
Apollo.
never hurt nobody.
Yeah,
I don't see
brain
any
damage
damage.
makes your life a little easier.
I don't see any damage.
And one thing I want to mention too. What do you guys think of Victor Drago's little cameo in the movie? I found that weird personally.
Yeah, I didn't think it fit. I thought it was like,
It was odd.
especially,
But they're like best
especially
friends
how
now.
big of a character. Yes, it didn't sit well with me. Just felt like forced. Felt like they were like, "I throw him in there," you know.
I think it's a little bit of that of just this is a sequel to part 2, a carryover character.
Right.
This might be too. We might want to save this for the end, but I have a prediction for Creed 4.
Oh yeah, wait, we're wrapping up here. I mean, this has
Okay.
been a great discussion, but I don't want to take too much more of your Sunday. But I want to.
Okay.
People are asking quite, which I like. The Discord people they want to hear our thoughts on another thing here. Of course, the death of spoiler alert, the death of Marianne. Thoughts on that sequence?
Oh yeah. Sorry, maybe do you
Dom,
want to
do
go
you wanna
first
start?
or?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was. I thought it was good for Adonis's growth. Put him through something like that. It felt like maybe it was a little bit forced, like just to bring some more emotion to the movie. You know, they killed Mickey obviously in Rocky 3, so maybe they felt like they had to kill somebody. But yeah, it was okay. I don't think it really added too much to the movie.
I did like the one thing I really did like it. I didn't get choked up. I heard there was an emotional scene from a critic. I did see a byline. I didn't read any, but I saw a quick there's a sequence that might make you tear up, and I think that was the one the critic must have been talking about. But I felt it, and you know, it's still a son losing his mother. So my mother, bless her heart, still alive. But anyone that's lost a parent, you know, it would be very difficult. So. But the part I liked about that, it was really nice for Adonis to hear, and I think it would help his growth, like you're saying. It was when she told Adonis, "You gave me a reason. You allowed me to forgive my husband." And I thought that was a really, you are the bastard child of my husband's infidelity, but because of our journey in life together after the death of my husband in the ring, you're this weird byproduct of a terrible time. My husband, you know, cheated on me. But you were born from that infidelity, but you brought so much joy in my life, and I got to kind of have my husband with me a little bit. And I think the fact that she learned to forgive her husband through her relationship with Adonis, I thought that was actually a very, I don't know if I could have written that. That was a great, I like that, put a bow on that scenario. So I like that ending. Yeah,
I did like that she was calling him Apollo at one point too.
Yeah.
I thought that brought some emotion to it.
absolutely.
I felt weird when she did that. I don't know. For me,
It's a stroke in
me,
the
it
brain.
felt
That's normal. That could be was
Yeah.
a stroke in the brain. It's obviously in the brain, but but yeah.
yeah, I think that's a personal thing of mine. I get uncomfortable with stuff like that.
Okay.
Like seeing people in their weak moment like that, or like people with dementia and stuff. Like I get freaked out by it.
But I think
Rocky in
that's
the
what she's
beginning of Rocky
saying.
5.
But you know what? You know what else though? I think she was. Here's another. I'm gonna talk about that scene, and then we'll kind of wrap up. I know that there's a lot to talk. Like I said, we will talk about this film as episodes go on the One More Round podcast. I don't want people to think that's all you guys are going to do. That's all you got. This is already like an hour in, and we still got to do the emails and people's voicemails at the end of this episode that you're going to hear. But absolutely, if there's a question or a scene or something that you didn't think we addressed properly, want to hear more of, we absolutely will talk to it. So send us an email. Let us know, and myself, Kyle, and Katie on a future episode will definitely take 5 minutes. This is a film worth discussing in future episodes. It's just we won't do a whole season. Is all I'm trying to say. If that makes sense. Okay, so by all means, send us questions. Let us know what we missed. Let us know what we got wrong. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I was just going to say, she was saying Apollo, but you could almost argue she was looking at Adonis, but she was seeing Apollo in her mind is all. Like she was just she knew that she was reuniting with Apollo. Wouldn't that be funny if they had like some what do you call it, Return of the Jedi ghost you had Ghost Mickey
At the end of Happy
Ghost,
Gilmore, you
Ghost
would have seen
Apollo.
Carl Weathers with the wooden hand.
Can you imagine you had Ghost Mickey, Ghost Apollo, Ghost Adrian, and Ghost Paulie all like
Paulie.
welcoming Marianne to their
Paulie. Ghost Paulie.
Ghost Paulie.
Ghost Paulie would look like
Drinking
Paulie.
whiskey.
He would look like Paulie in Rocky 2, where he was like
Oh, yeah.
happy and thinner and like in a good way. That's like
He was working for Gazzo.
yeah, that was his apex. He would return to that. His spirit Paulie. That's what he looked like.
We need the Paulie spinoff. I don't want any more Creed movies. I want the Paulie spinoff.
Yeah.
Louise brought up a super great point. Thank you, Louise, for reminding us. Yeah, great. I thought it was also a really great nod to the franchise where Adonis got mad at Marianne before her death, of course, saying, like, even my siblings didn't want anything to do with me. That idea. I like that. They addressed the two siblings. They did address, we talked about that are they going to address the siblings? Are we going to see them? So I get full credit.
Right.
They at least said, hey, we know the Rocky fans have talked about this. Adonis had siblings, but they treated him like a bastard child even as they grew up. So I like that. Yeah. And what was the other thing here? Simon said that he thought the Victor cameo could have worked if he wasn't seen or injured earlier and appeared in the montage when Adonis needs someone to help him train. There you go. I kind of agree with that too. Good. Creed 4, Ghost Gazzo. Yeah, Gazzo would have been there too. Gazzo's.
I was just laughing at that. I saw that pop up. Let me do the figure, hey, Rock. Let me do the figure.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is, but-
Gazzo's at the Judgment Bar. Let me do the figure, you know? Like he's telling people
Put in the asthma inhaler.
He's the one that sends people to heaven or hell. He does the figuring. It's the figuring tale. It's the figuring day. Figuring day, not Judgment Day. It's figuring day. Oh man. Okay.
And if you go to hell, you have Buddy waiting for you, where Buddy harasses and abuses you.
Hey,
like
the
the face.
zoo, Rocco.
I like your face.
I should have broke your thumb.
You know, I have to say, after this review, I like this movie a little less. I still liked it, but one
As
thing,
per the show, we tear it apart. Yes, that's what we do here.
well, one thing I'm realizing when we're talking about the film is so much of it was forced.
Sure.
Like they're really trying to cram a lot of shit in. I feel like
Right.
Marianne's death, although they foreshadowed it earlier in the film, didn't really affect Donnie that much.
Mm-hmm.
No, not really.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Like it just kind of happened. Like, okay, we have to put something like that in the movie, and
Right.
you know, we have to have the training montage, and we have to like. I feel like
There is a formula, but that's with all these like whether it's a Marvel
Yeah.
franchise, the Star Wars franchise, the Harry Potter franchise, all these franchises have the same
Yeah.
sort of beginning, middle, and end sequence. We kind of have to have it. That's what people are fans of. So it's either a criticism or not, because if you break too much from it, then you don't have it's not the universe anymore, right?
I know. I tire of it. I feel like this is the chance for them to go in their new direction, and I understand from a risk perspective, it's hard to do that because you don't want to alienate the existing fan base too much because they're the ones who are going to be buying the tickets.
Yeah.
But me personally, I did feel like a lot of stuff in that movie was forced. Like the trying to get that guy the title shot. I'm like, they have to figure out some way to get it in, and now they're popping it in. Like
a lot of plot devices.
I was constantly battling my suspension of disbelief, but it was still a good film. I still enjoyed it. Like it was good enough that when Creed 4 comes out, I will watch it.
Okay, good final thoughts. Dom, do you want to end your final thoughts?
I think overall, as I said, I do like it. I look forward to watching it again and seeing how I feel about it. I don't know, like, I have the same thought that there's probably most likely going to be more Creed movies. I don't necessarily know if I need to see them. Louise was saying that he was kind of bashing Michael B. Jordan a little bit. And I don't hate Michael B. Jordan, but I understand what he was saying because I don't think the Adonis Creed character, to me at least, has like the mass appeal that the Rocky Balboa character had. No. And that's a Sylvester Stallone thing. That's, like that. He's an iconic movie character.
Yeah.
I don't look at Adonis Creed. Do we need 6, Adonis Creed movies? I don't think so.
I agree. You'll never. That's an impossible bar to reach.
Mm-hmm.
You will never have the heart and I want to say charisma. That's not the right word, but you'll never have that wow factor. The Rocky character is something very, very special.
Yeah,
and
people are torn about this film. I get it.
Yeah, you'll never have anyone replicate that especially within the universe. It cannot be done. And so I don't hold Michael B to that standard because I don't think it's fair to him. My prediction for Creed 4 is Adonis will not be fighting in it. It will be his daughter. She will be fighting. She will be starting her
10 years later type thing. She's 18.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking too.
It's her fighting career. They were heavily implying that, especially at the end of the movie. But you know what that is? She just fights. Right there. So did you guys catch that?
Yeah.
And which of course the social worker says that to Marianne years ago about Adonis, and it was said about that he's like just like his father Apollo. It runs in the family that the girl has the eye of the tiger or whatever. It's her time to come, and she's going to be an interesting character because she's deaf, and she's going to be in this boxing world, and her dad is going to train her.
That's very good.
And
and then
the
female. So now Adonis was the black audience kind of fan base. Now we're going to have a female audience. Sure. Yeah, the female.
I actually really hope they do that. I really look forward to seeing that film.
Yeah, but she didn't hear no bell. She didn't hear no bell though. That's the problem.
What's that movie? There was a $1 Million Baby.
Yes, Hilary Swank. Right?
Yeah, that was a great boxing movie. So you can have female boxing movies that are really good. So that's what I'm hoping for Creed 4.
Hopefully it ends better for her daughter, his daughter.
Oh God!
As long as Clint Eastwood does the right Creed 4, it will be okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so did anyone else want to go on the mic? I feel bad. We've gone a little bit long here, but does anybody else want to say a 2 or 3 minute review on the mic before we close? We'll get you on. Okay, Donald. Wow. Okay, Donald, I'm going to unmute you, and please, I'm going to say don't take too long, but just give us your thoughts, and I'm going to unmute you, and if you want to jump on and start talking, you can. You can be on camera, audio. You're free to go. I don't know if your mic's...
I'll just do audio.
Oh, there he is. Donald, hey.
Up, Donald.
Hey, I'll just do audio if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I can't.
No, he's just doing audio.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
I've muted him. He was unmuted for me before for some reason,
Oh, yeah.
and I had to manually mute him, so I'm going to unmute him now. Sorry.
That's okay. All right, Donald, you're free to go.
All right, so I really enjoyed this movie. The anime-inspired visuals, you guys didn't like them. I liked them. They tried something different, and different is always going to be scary and divisive in a franchise this deep in. Scream 6 is going through something similar right now, and I applaud them for trying something different. I thought the performances were great. Felicia Rashad will make you cry in this movie. I actually thought the toning down of the sexual assault and making the movie more Rocky-esque actually hurt this movie, which is something I never thought I would say about a Rocky universe movie. But there you go. I thought the performances were great. And when it got to the reveal of just being abusive, I kind of thought, oh, that's it, because the performances earlier from all of the actors really reflected, they were great, and they really reflected something deeper and darker. So that was a bit underwhelming.
Do you think it was originally a sexual assault? And Kyle, if you can't hear Donald, maybe just try to hop in and out of the server if that would work for you. Do you think they did have originally written that it was sexual assault?
I do think so, based on what you had reported before, what I had heard, and where the story seemed to be going. I really think that's where it was going, based on Adonis's scene with Bianca, where he really got dramatic and emotional. I really thought that's where that was going. And when it didn't get there, I was like, "That's it," But
okay,
Yeah, I felt exactly the same way. I'm like, this is for sure sexual assault. It's like, and then he said it, and he beat on him more. We weren't angels, but no one should be beat up like that. I'm like, really?
And he had the. Sorry.
Well, physical abuse
Andy
is
had
still brutal and terrible for a child to be physically abused. But yes, the beatdown he received, and I agree. It wasn't until later when he said it was physical assault. I carried in my mind's eye, I carried that it was a sexual assault the whole time. Yeah,
absolutely. And I was relieved too, because hearing the sexual assault rumors going into it, like Ryan was saying earlier, I was worried for Bianca. I was worried for Felicia Rashad the whole movie.
Right.
And then none of that came, and thankfully it wasn't that either. So
that's exactly what I thought too. When I heard the sexual assault rumors, of course, I had no idea it would be Adonis's past. I thought the same thing. I thought, did Bianca get harassed or touched or something, and that's what they're fighting the ring for? That's what the person who told me this tried to insinuate to. I'm like, oh, this is a terrible storyline. I don't think they would do that. This sounds terrible. But no, I think they might have just taken it out to, I don't know. I mean, kids are watching this to a degree. Maybe that's not necessary. They just have to know, hey, it might have been better how you just said he was abused, physically abused. Is that what he said? Was it physically abused or assaulted?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I think you could have said sexual assault without saying sexual assault. So the adults in the room understand.
Well, that's what Simon just said here. Simon, our filmmaker guy, goes, it's like Good Will Hunting. They suggest Will was beaten, but Damon and Affleck seem uncomfortable suggesting Will was sexually assaulted, so he's beaten up in care. So it could just be... Yeah. Go ahead there, Donald.
Even the part where Damien was getting Adonis in trouble with Bianca, when he's telling the story about he pulled the gun on dude, and he even gets to this, he's a villain by this point. He's getting him in trouble with his woman. Mm-hmm. And even he gets to a point in the story where he goes, I'm going to let him tell you the rest of it because it's very personal. It's his story to tell. And I don't think he would say that if it was just, oh yeah, some guy at the home was beating on us, Right.
So maybe it was sexual assault, and he didn't. He just hasn't revealed it all yet. Maybe he still hasn't revealed it all.
I would, in my mind, that's how it works. Because honestly, physical abuse is traumatic. There's no question about it. But I feel like there's not as much shame associated with physical abuse as sexual abuse. That's a whole different ballpark, right? And it's very understandable that someone would not want to talk about sexual abuse.
Yeah.
Whereas physical abuse, people could talk about that and you would be like, oh man, that sucks. But that's not, it doesn't, I don't know. It's just a different ballpark there.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, that's obviously a very sensitive subject, and who knows why they took it out, but they made it vague enough where I would just assume that's what happened to him, and he hasn't told the whole story to Bianca yet. So us, the audience, only heard part of the story too. But the way Damien was talking, the way the assault happened, the way he turned on that guy, it all told us something deeper happened. All right, Donald. So we appreciate your support on our channel. We love that you're here. We just need another 1,000 Donalds, and we might be a successful podcast. So thank you. Any final thoughts before you go?
I love the performances. I thought I definitely, as far as extending the Creed universe, Rocky universe, whatever you want to call it, I think this movie succeeded there. I want to see more of Jonathan Majors Damien. I want Victor Drago to get some redemption. He has had 3 opportunities against the world champion, and he has lost 3 times due to circumstances beyond his control. He's begging for a redemption movie.
Good point.
Oh, and Drago would have beat the living shit out of Chavez. To me, Chavez was such an underwhelming boxer. He seemed really small, even smaller. Because Adonis for a heavyweight is quite small, and Chavez seemed smaller. and Victor Drago is huge. That would have been almost a comical kind of fight.
Mhm.
Agreed. Well said. Awesome, Donald. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you.
I'll let you hang up on yourself there. Okay. Well, that was an amazing. I thought it was a very good episode. I know we've left a lot on the table, and I do apologize. So people are going to probably be mad. Why did you guys talk about this? Why did you guys talk about that? There is a lot in this film. So again, I will stress this again. If there's something that you would like to hear our thoughts on, or you want to share your thoughts on it, it's still not too late to send an email or a voice message. We'll play them at the end of episodes in the future. That's not a problem. We like to hear your voices because people will hear this episode and feel like they had something to say, especially after maybe things we missed or got wrong in their opinion. That's absolutely valid. So send us an email, voicemail, via that email, like a voice file, and we'll play it on the show and we can discuss it. But we're not going to spend a half hour every episode, but I would like to hear other people's thoughts about our show, what they thought about our review. Stick around, folks. The episode is not over. When you're listening to this on your phone or on YouTube, the emails will be read by me, and also from all the people that submitted emails, and the voicemails will be also played, so you get to hear other people's thoughts. And there's some great takes. People said very quickly, succinctly things that took us an hour and a half. So we appreciate everyone's insight and thoughts and being a part of the show. And thank you, Dom. Yeah, I mean, you're almost as pretty as Katie, but sorry, you don't cut it. I'm
Next time, makeup and wig. Next time,
Yeah.
don't worry.
I'm going to have to just keep you on the Rambo podcast. There's nobody pretty on that one, so me and you will just stick to that one. And Kyle, thanks for coming on.
Sounds good.
2 weeks in a row out of your schedule with your family there, so we appreciate that. So
No problem. I really enjoy
yeah, this was a fun discussion.
podcasting. I always feel great after a podcast, for sure.
Me too. Thanks to everyone who joined our Discord, biggest audience yet. All right, guys. Thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out. And
Take care, guys.
thanks, Tom. Thanks, Kyle.
Take it easy. No problem. See you guys soon.
All right, so here we go with the email portion. We're going to read the emails from each individual. I'll plug whatever projects they have accordingly. And then after the email reading, we're going to listen to the voice recordings from people. So if you're watching me live right now, bear with me as I set up. But if those who are watching this on YouTube and listen to it on their audio podcast, this will all be cleaned up nicely. Okay, first email. We're just going to order kind of what was given to me. I also want to say people commented on Twitter. People commented on Facebook. There's just too much to read. I'm kind of focusing just on the emails. People actually took the time to write an email. But thank you to those who gave me comments on our Facebook group and on the Twitter feeds. That's really cool. Thank you so much on Instagram as well. Again, if there's something that myself, Kyle, and Dom missed during our review, or a question that you have for us, or something you would like us to comment on, let us know. And myself, Kyle, and Katie will be happy to answer that in an email. And that's a forever invitation because people will find this podcast at any given time. So never hesitate to send us an email at any time, okay? And the email is in the show notes. Here we go. From Jared Talkstein. He, of course, is guest hosted on the show and on other podcasts of the Last of the Action Heroes Podcast Network. His podcast show is Podcasting in the 25th Century Hyperspace Podcasting. I'm sorry, Jared, that title is insane. But check out Hyperspace Podcasting in the 25th Century. Here he goes. Now, he said this is spoiler-free thoughts, but that's okay. Because, of course, he wrote this before I watched the film. And like I said, I haven't read any of these yet or listened to anything yet. So I will be live reacting to the emails and to the voices because I didn't want to do any review listening from anybody because I didn't want to be... I wanted to go into my review with my own thoughts. I didn't want to steal anyone else's. So if I said anything in my review that you've just heard and I said something you've said in an email or voice message, there you go. We're just on the same page, okay? All right. Okay, Creed 3 spoiler-free thoughts. Jared says, I saw the IMAX sneak peek on Wednesday night. Bottom line, I was entertained and invested throughout the film. Jonathan Majors is great and is now a top 3 Rocky series antagonist for me. My list is Drago, Clubber Lang, and now Dame Anderson. Often the issue of Adonis's likability is brought up. I think he's talking about our podcast in general. In this film, Adonis is the most likable and relatable he's ever been. For the most part, the fight scenes are excellent and are what we have come to expect from the modern Rocky films. But there are stylistic choices during some of the fights that are going to be polarizing for some fans. One element in particular, and one of the fights just did not land for me. It's probably talking about the dream sequence or the jail bar sequence. You'll probably know which one when you see it. Okay, there you go. See, I told you I haven't read these before. I'm definitely commenting as we go along. The elephant in the room is the absence of Rocky. Of course, you notice it and feel it, but as the movie goes along, you start to wonder where exactly would Rocky have fit into the story. Hey, I said the same thing, Jared, exactly. Where would we have put him? Like it or not, the only way that the character of Adonis was going to grow was like it or not, the only way that the character of Adonis was going to grow was outside of Rocky's shadow. And the fact that this is Michael B. Jordan's best performance as Adonis bears this out. The foundation of the series was started in 1976, and it is actually a credit to Stallone that this foundation will be able to sustain new stories in this world for years to come. Your pal, Jared. Thank you. Thank you, Jared. Check out his podcast. Very sound, very good spoiler-free review, thoughts on the movie, and I hope you enjoyed our review. The one thing that stepped out for me, I agree with you, Jared, is Jonathan Majors, great antagonist. I'd like to use the word villain, but yeah, great antagonist for sure. He's up there, man. He was so much fun to watch, right? This is from Daniel O'Neill, titled Creed 3. Quote, one step at a time, one punch at a time, one round at a time. You know what, Dan? Thank you for bringing up that quote. Adonis was saying that to himself when he was going out to the fight against Dame. And I caught that. So he was actually repeating the mantra that Rocky gave him in the Creed film. So I thought that was another good nod to the Rocky training, that he was repeating the one step at a time, one punch at a time, one round at a time. Did anyone else catch that? Was that just me? Okay. He goes on to say, hey guys, Wilt's being a Patreon, this is actually my first email into the pod, which is surprising given I've been hooked on it since 2019. Well, thank you. Anyway, this is him saying anyway, not me. Anyway, I've just come out of the IMAX screening after seeing Creed 3 and thought I'd send my brief review while the film is fresh in my head. I feel like we have finally gone full circle with Adonis Creed in this feature. I'm sure his biggest fan and former Going the Distance favorite Greg the First will agree. Yeah, Greg the First doesn't listen to the show anymore. He gave up on me. Given this was Michael B's directorial debut and the first sports film to be shot on IMAX, I don't know if I knew that. Is that true? Okay. I thought the film shot fantastically well on the big screen, and I felt an intimacy with the characters that perhaps you don't get when watching on TV or a smaller cinematic screen. Given this was the 9th installment in the Rockyverse franchise, I thought that the boxing scenes and choreography looked fresh and realistic, much more than Creed 2, which felt a little too computer simulated to me. What I loved the most about this film was the relationship that Adonis has with his daughter, perhaps because I'm a dad and have a daughter of similar age to Amara. I felt the chemistry, Kyle said the exact same thing. I felt the chemistry was very real and beautiful. Clearly, he has learned from his mistakes of Rocky's relationship, or lack thereof, with Robert, and alongside Bianca, they have a real family showcasing their own struggles with their feelings and the past. I thought the treatment of Amara being deaf was pitch perfect. Was that a pun? I wonder. Was pitch perfect, which even further heightened your growing fondness of Adonis. The breakout star of the film was clearly Majors, and his character Dame didn't disappoint. He reminded me of a black Tom Hardy at his gruesome best. Same build, mannerisms, and aggression. Now, I believe he's referring to the movie Warrior, which, believe it or not, I have not seen. So that's a film I got to see, I know. Despite being the antagonist, which he plays superbly, plays very well, you do still have an affinity with the character, and you can understand where his pain comes from. Yeah, we mentioned that. I thought the film was emotionally charged throughout, and despite Rocky not being present, his presence was felt in parts of the film, and we even got treated to his fanfare briefly in the 12th round of the final fight. Overall, I feel that the film stands alone perfectly in the overall saga, and I look forward to seeing what more Michael B. has to offer going forward. All the best, guys, Dan. Great. Okay, so another pretty much positive review of the film. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for being a listener of the show since 2019. Wow, that's great. This one's from Tyler Morgan. Great guy. friend of mine. Well, not a friend of, well, social media friend of mine. I've talked to him on the old interwebs on Facebook Messenger over the years. I actually interviewed him, or he was a guest back in the day on Going the Distance. He guested with me on one of those episodes. I don't know if you guys remember. Great guy. He said, "Hey, Ryan and Kyle." Oh, I better add Katie to that. So let me edit that. I don't know why he forgot Katie. So let me. Oh, maybe he's just saying because Katie wasn't going to be there for the review. But still, okay. Hey, Ryan, Kyle, and Katie. I hope you're doing well. Here's my Creed 3 review. Yes, we're doing well. Thank you, Tyler. Hope you're doing well, too. He says, Creed 3 is the most ego-driven film of the Rocky franchise. Ooh, here we go. When Michael B. Jordan was given the job as director, he had a vision that this film was about him and how great he is. His character is successful at everything. Father, fighter, promoter, just like he is in real life, director and actor. His character gives his friend a chance and he becomes a monster just like he did in real life, stealing the franchise from Stallone. Okay, so this might be our first not a positive review. The most telling element of the story is the villain. In the past, Rocky fought for honor, redemption, and going the distance. What does Creed 3's villain threaten? Adonis's ego by defaming him publicly. It's punching time. Jordan's ego even ruins the story. Jordan wants it all. He wants the tragic backstory. He wants the death of a loved one. He wants the, quote, but you're too old scene. It's like he took Rocky 3, 5, and Balboa and put them in a blender, and the result is a bloated mess. Characters are only given development and screen time if it relates to making his character look good. Whenever Adonis is not on screen, all the other characters should be asking, where's Adonis? I can't think of a better visual than the one in the movie. Michael B. Jordan standing alone above the Hollywood sign with his arms held up in triumph. You did it, Jordan. Love watching the show. Keep up the great work. Tyler Morgan. All right. Well, there you go. I get the review. Like, I understand it. That is certainly a valid angle, and I can see why Tyler felt that way. I'm not going to defend the film or even Jordan's ego because it might have played a factor. I mean, Sly at the same age, right? I mean, Sly in the 30, when he was 35, 40, Sly had a huge ego. So maybe this is Jordan's ego, right? This is Jordan's ego time, and Sly had his ego at the same time. So I'm not going to defend Jordan. I'm just going to say Sly definitely had an ego at the same time. And Sly was king of Hollywood at the same time of his age, right? So to be fair to Jordan, so did Sly. And of course, this movie is going to make Jordan look good, right? So fair assessment. There's nothing you said there that didn't happen necessarily. I saw it differently. Maybe I think what happened for me was Michael B. Jordan wasn't annoying in this film. He made himself look good. So as a viewer, it was an easier watch for me. But yeah, he was definitely King Jordan, and everything was going turning up aces, as they say, for Jordan's character in this film. Okay. Well said, Tyler. Thank you for being a great fan of the show and listening all these years. I do appreciate it. I don't think I've talked to this person before. This is from Carl. Oh, okay. Yes, we did. Yeah, okay. All right. I should just read it. He goes, "Hey, Ryan." Of course, you'd be saying hi to everyone. "Hey, Ryan, Katie, and Kyle. I just saw Creed 3 last night and happy to share my thoughts on it. Not sure if you remember me, but I emailed you about hitting Sly with a poster to get his autograph. See, I remember that story. So yes, Carl, that's a great story. I'm a huge Sly and Rocky fan. The first movie I saw was Rocky 4 at the theaters when I was 10 years old. I still have the Rocky 4 muscle shirt from that time. I've seen every Rocky and Creed movie at the theater since, including Rocky vs. Drago, the director's cut. Cool. Regarding Creed 3, I can say that I did enjoy it. I didn't feel it suffered from Rocky not being in it, but my wife definitely thought he should have been there when Mama Creed died. That might have been an interesting sequence. See, if you were going to have Sly as a cameo, agreed. We didn't talk about that in our review, but I agree. That's a good place to put him for Sly as a cameo, be at the bedside of Mama Creed. And she could have also told Rocky that she forgave Rocky too, right? That Adonis gave that forgiveness for both Apollo and Rocky. And it would have been nice had she said that too. Okay. Carl goes on to say, I thought the first half was a little slow. It did start to pick up from the record release party onward. I also forgot to mention, it was nice. Bianca did not sing. She was a record producer. She knew better. She heard our reviews and she's like, no, you're right. I shouldn't sing. And And she took our advice and she just produces. Nothing better than a deaf producer. Like I say, if you're going to have somebody producing your music, it should be somebody that can't hear it. I think that's a good way to go. The training montage was not too bad. Definitely compared him being on top of the Hollywood Mountain to Rocky at the top of the mountain in Russia. The fight was good. I didn't have a problem with them having them alone in the ring. My wife loved that and thought there wasn't possibly anything new they could do with the fight scenes, and Michael B. Jordan did so. So there you go. People are saying, at least he took a jab or stab at something different, and he did. But I just didn't get all the feels I usually get. Everything was good, but even when Marianne passed away, I just didn't feel that much either way. Yeah, that we kind of felt the same. The other problem I had was that I actually felt bad for Damien after the fight. That's never happened with any of the other movies. Kudos to Major. Well, we get that a little bit in the director's cut of part 4 now, but yeah. Kudos to Majors for... Actually, no, that's not true. For Creed 2, when Adonis was kicking the crap out of Victor Drago, I felt bad for Victor. So I will say I did feel bad for Victor. I felt bad for his character. We want to see a redemption story on Victor. Kudos to Majors for that, I guess. I just felt it was kind of an empty victory for Adonis. I liked the talk they had in the locker room. That was a nice touch. I liked them bringing back Victor and Ricky. But I thought Rocky should have at least been mentioned in the movie. Now, they sort of mentioned, like we mentioned that there was that... What was the mention? I think... It's funny, in the trailer... I watched the trailer after I saw the film, because like I said, I hadn't seen the trailers or anything. So I watched the trailer afterwards. I'm so glad I did. I'm glad I watched the trailer without, after the movie. But there was, of course, scenes in the trailer that weren't in the movie. And there was a sequence in the trailer that Adonis was saying something like, this gym or my life was built on Rocky or something like that. So that was mentioned in the trailer. They basically ignored him and acted like he didn't have a huge role in Creed getting everything he had. And again, I'm not defending that. That's true. His absence was like noticeably absent. But you could just argue that Adonis in those 3 years has. You know what I mean? Like, off screen he has. They've shaken hands and wished each other luck in their life. We just didn't see it. So I don't think they left on bad terms. I would, if I was to fan fiction this, I would suspect Rocky's peaceful with his son and grandson. You know what I mean? And they've moved on. That's all. In a happy way. Like, they've wished each other luck and they just move on. Like, Rocky didn't even call his son. He's not going to call Adonis, right? Michael B. Jordan did a good job, and yes, he's more likable in this movie. The music was Yeah, we didn't really talk about the music. It's not my cup of tea type. It's just I don't listen to that type of music, so it's geared towards a certain audience, and it's not mine. So yeah, the music was a little bit but that's to be expected, says Carl. It was weird having an F-bomb during the training montage, though. I didn't catch that. Did anyone else catch the F-bomb? I may have missed it. He goes on to say, sorry this is long. I can talk Rocky, Rambo, and Sly all day long. Look forward to hearing your thoughts, Carl. Well, thank you, Carl. Hope you enjoyed our review. And thanks for writing to the show. We do appreciate your support of the show. And yeah. This is from Alfred. Alfred Fioli. Probably Italian, maybe with a name like that. Sounds like my favorite Italian dish. Can I have Fioli with some extra cheese, please? All right, Creed 3 is exactly what the Rocky series needed. Wow, here we go. The acting was great. Mayer stole the show, but all around the cast was great. The storyline was engaging, mostly because we have two fighters that actually have a past. Yeah, I agree. I kind of I like the backstory stuff, guys. Like, that's great. The backstories was great. We don't know Rocky's backstory, and we don't know Mickey's or Paul. So getting the backstory was really cool. The storyline was engaging, mostly because we have two fighters that actually have a past. Despite Dame being the antagonist, you almost start to understand and sympathize with him. Yeah, of course. The way he was written, it made him feel very believable. Not including Rocky was the way to go. The movie has so much going on, and inserting Rocky just to insert him would have been just another rehash of what he has already done. I kind of agree. I don't know where you'd put him. Again, maybe the bedside of Marianne. You have him call Adonis calls. That would be it. There you go. Adonis calls Rocky, say, hey, Marianne's really sick. Do you want to come see him? He flies, for the first time. He rarely flies, but he comes quickly to the bedside after the stroke. Adonis and Rocky are together to say goodbye to Marianne. And then he wishes Adonis luck in the fight. You know what I mean? And that would have been a good cameo. There you go. It's too bad. Oh, well. The character's story is done, and they ended it right in Creed Part 2. On top of all that, the fights, especially the final fight, felt new and innovative. The final match is just incredible. The middle portion of that fight might be one of the best boxing matches I've ever seen in a boxing movie. You can just feel what both of these characters are feeling whenever they exchange punches. At that point in their minds, it's just them. Nothing outside the ring mattered. We didn't need dialogue. The way they went at each other spoke volumes. I might see it again just to watch the final fight. Gave me chills the first time. All right. Very cool. Thank you, Alfred. There you go. Very positive review there. This one's from Cameron Jackson. Hello, Ryan, Kyle, and Katie, although not there. I know, she's there in spirit. I'm a few hours out of seeing Creed 3. I went into it not having read any reviews. Had heard generally positive things. Expectations weren't super high, though. I thought overall was pretty decent, perhaps better than I expected. It seems a bit of a mishmash of the original Rocky. It even acknowledged the giving the title shot to an unknown, and Rocky 3 with the overconfident new champion, giving this time Adonis a shot. I felt Marianne dying was a little like even Mickey dying in the terms of story beats. The elephant in the room, or perhaps not in the room, was Rocky. I thought there might have been a throwaway line somewhere with Adonis saying Rocky doesn't train anymore, just concentrates on his restaurant, but nothing. There were the references, though, one with the one step, one punch, one round, said pre-fight at the end. So there you go, somebody else caught that. That's great. Perhaps a missed opportunity to at least mention him and confirm he's at least still alive in the Rocky universe. I just assume he is, but you're right. They should have said something. I did have at times difficulty cheering for Adonis. He is perhaps more likable this time, but both he and Dame didn't really make me want to root for either. Okay, interesting. There were some nice nods, though, with Conlon back. Drago was great to see, cheered for him, and Rocky music on the victory. The use of the Creed theme was also good. Jordan did a good job directing, which surprised me. The fights were well staged, with Dame having what I felt a very rough brawler style, which suited the character, not having the opportunity to polish and be trained since being in prison for nearly 2 decades. The training montage was good. He's learnt from Sly. I think it has moved away from the Rocky universe and now firmly established in the Creed universe. Looks like if there is a Creed 4, it might be him training his daughter, which is what Kyle hopes for, and I agree. Oh, he mentions here, might be another $1 million baby, but probably not that ending. Yeah, yeah. I always say, don't collapse on the stool. I'm behind in watching and listening to the show, unfortunately, but continue to be a patron, hoping to catch up someday. Will be interested to hear your thoughts. Cheers and thanks, Jacko. Oh, so he goes by Jacko. Okay, thanks, Jacko. Catch up, but that's okay. Keep giving me money. That's fine. Don't listen, just give me money. That's fine. Nobody listen, just give me money. All right, Jacko. Thank you for being a supporter of the show, and catch up, would you? Okay, so this guy goes by the name of. Now this one's really long, so I won't read the whole. And he knows it's long because he goes over some of the beats of the film. This is from my Twitter follower. His name is Cobra Commander. Yeah, his name is Cobra Commander. So the Cobra Commander wrote in. So he likes the fighting, likes the characters overall. I'm just going to read the end of his. He says, "Is this the end of the Rocky series?" He wrote. Hopefully was his answer. Unlike the Rocky films, which each aspire to end in a high note and a freeze frame, the Creed film ends with an epilogue. It is not as satisfying, but it appears to be a deliberate choice and perhaps to draw a distinction between the Creed films and the Rocky films. I'm not sure if there's any more of Adonis' story to tell. A Drago spin-off seems like a mistake, and a Creed 4 will draw a comparison to Stallone's most successful film that Michael B. Jordan may not wish to go against. Cobra's review is that Creed 3 is a solid film that goes the distance, but misses both Rocky and Stallone's involvement, but he still gave it 8 out of 10. Okay. All right. Great emails, everyone. If I missed somebody's email, let me know. We'll just read it on the next show. Okay. All right, guys. So sit back, relax. All right, so this first audio review is from Patrick. This is what he had to say. He goes, "Hey Ryan, maybe you can use some of it." Well, we'll just play it. How long is it?
Right time.
We'll use it all. So sit back, relax.
Hello Ryan, Kyle and Katie. Patrick here. Just wanted to give you a very short review of Creed 3, which I have seen twice already at the cinemas. Well, in a nutshell, it's a great film. I really loved it. I loved it even more the second time, and that I watched it. Very exciting film, very tense. I think that Jonathan Majors was a great well, is he a villain? No, but he's a great antagonist. The scene at the beach, for example, when Adonis confronts him after he found out that what's his name again? The Dame Anderson, was the one who was responsible for Victor Drago's hands to be crushed. Now that scene at the beach I found very, very tense and suspenseful. So great antagonist here. I think that Adonis comes off way more mature without, of course he's older a little bit, but without Rocky, without Sly, without the Rocky character. I think with the focus being solely on Adonis, I think that serves him quite well. I think I was very behind him in that movie, as it should be, but in the other movies sometimes it says, oh, the Dragos were better and that this was better. Of course, Jonathan Majors might be the better actor, but I still think that Michael B. Jordan did a very good job in this film. The training scene was cool. The fight with this port in the middle, where they are just alone in this stadium, just focusing on this fight without the audience. On the soundtrack album, this part is called The Void. That was interesting. I'm not sure if I'm a big fan of this, but it was an artistic choice, and I liked it. It was good. So, all in all, a great film. And final thoughts on this Rocky 7, Creed 3. What does it mean for the Rocky franchise situation? A lot of people think that, with Creed being this big success, the Rocky franchise is over, or the possibility of Sly doing this Rocky 7 that, as I've heard, MGM badly wants, but Winkler refuses to do. I think you can see it both ways. Of course, the Winklers, maybe MGM even, can say, okay, Creed 3 is a big success, we don't need Rocky anymore, we don't need Sly anymore, So that could very well be. A lot of fans, a lot of people say, would have Creed 3 flopped or bombed, the chance of a Rocky 7 would be much higher. Well, this could be, as I said, but I'm a teacher, as you might know, and my pupils between 10 and 16, they are asking me all the time, every day, about Creed 3, because there was this huge ad campaign on TikTok, as they told me, and so they got to know Creed 3. They watched it at the cinema. The film had a huge start in Germany at the first weekend, and in preparation for this film, they watched Creed 1 and 2, and they asked me, well, who was this Ankh character? Who was this old trainer? And I tell them about Rocky, and there were some older movies, with Rocky fighting, and so they are interested in that. So with Creed 3 being a big success, a new generation gets into this Rocky world. And if Creed 3 had bombed, well, maybe the Creed series would have ended then, and Winkler still wouldn't allow Sly to do a Rocky 7. And then what? No more Creeds, no more Rockies. You had, 10, 20 years without Rocky, and then a remake maybe? So I think the success of Creed 3 really helps the brand. It doesn't help Sly with getting Rocky 7 made, but in the end, he's 77. I would welcome a new Rocky film, of course. But he's 77 now, or almost 77. And how many more Rockies can he do? 1, 2, maybe 1. But the option of other Creed films, of course, we shouldn't dismiss that. So, all in all, Creed 3, great movie. I had a great time. Looking forward to Creed 4. Cheers.
All right. Thank you so much, Patrick. Great insight and great review. And I agree, the younger generation, at the very least, they don't know any of the drama, right? Think about it. There's 15, 17, 18-year-old, 12-year-old kids. They don't know the drama. They don't know studio rights and all that garbage. They don't have any. They say, hey, it's a fun film. Can I, who's Creed? Oh, he's Apollo's son. Who's Apollo? Oh, he fought Rocky in these films. That's great. So I think some of us old guard and old farts have to kind of calm down and just say, hey, if this movie does well and advertises the Rocky franchise, I think that's great. Kids don't care about the behind the scenes drama. They just don't care. I think some of us old guys, and people know who I'm talking about, settle down. Even Sly. Come on, man. These are fans that are going to go back and watch your franchise. And they're going to like you, Sly. Then they're going to want to join your Instagram and watch your reality show on Paramount Plus. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's just me. Whatever. What do I know? Okay. All right. This next one is from our favorite film guy, Simon. And he says, please find attached my Creed 3 review. Yeah, here we go. Wishing you all the best. Well, we wish you the best too, Simon.
Hi, this is Simon with my Creed 3 review. I really enjoyed it. I'll start with the positives first. I thought they did a good job with Michael B. to make him more engaging and more relatable, I think, than the other ones. I thought Jonathan Majors was really good. I actually really liked the final fight, the first couple of rounds in particular, where they were doing a really good job of building up the sort of intensity really slowly, but it felt as if it was really, really ratcheting up. Yeah, I thought it was a really solid, fun sequel, which sort of leads to the slightly negative points, were the fact that it also, because it wasn't set in Philadelphia and there was no Rocky, it almost had a bit more of a Southpaw vibe or something. I expected Jake Gyllenhaal or 50 Cent to turn up or something, because it's so LA sort of based with a bit of crime element in the background, which is no bad thing because I like Southpaw as well. But I thought some of the script elements didn't quite work for me. The build-up in the final third of the film, it felt as if there were some scenes missing. The element with Adonis's mum, it just felt a bit random, and I thought they could have incorporated that into the story of then maybe if Damien had used that to goad Adonis or something. Oh, you let your mum down, she's the same as you let me down or something. It's kind of challenging his ego with that. But it just didn't really come up. And once again, Creed's biological children are nowhere to be seen, which is a very odd creative decision for all the three films. Yeah, and I just thought they could have built up a bit more of Damien in the third act, of a bit more of that antagonism. I really like the scene where he humiliates Creed at the party on the beach. And then there was that really random scene where he challenges him over the phone, which felt to me as if it was a reshoot, actually. I know they did reshoots and changed some stuff, and I'm wondering if the deaf daughter learning boxing and some of those storylines were taken out, and it felt as if it needed a bit more Jonathan Majors confronting Creed, or causing more trouble at a Bianca music event, or being a bit more Clubber Lang, really, where he's kind of constantly aggravating, because I felt a bit half-baked. I thought their chemistry was really good, and I thought their clashes did seem quite believable, but it felt a little bit rushed, and the montages weren't quite as good as the other films. Yeah, and then there was that random scene where it felt like a reshoot of just Creed's on TV, Damien's live, and oh yeah, let's have a fight, and it didn't quite all come together. But I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. The music didn't quite have the Rocky vibe, and like I say, the montages, I thought some of the visual style was okay. Like I said, I liked the build-up of the first couple of rounds where it felt as if they were really figuring each other out, and but also I thought they could have used a bit more of that, where Adonis knew a little bit more about Damien's techniques from the past, and there's sort of a bit more cleverness, and I didn't mind the final elements where they were fighting in the ring on their own, symbolic fighting with no one else around them. I suppose it was just a bit different than the normal film fights. It felt a bit random, a bit surreal, and some of the sort of slow-mo fast stuff, but at the same time it felt a bit different for the franchise, so fair play. And yeah, thanks for letting me review it. I really enjoyed it. I still think out of the three Creed films, Creed 2 is my favourite. And another slight bum note, actually, I kind of wish they'd just made Jonathan Majors just a prick for the whole thing right at the very end. The moment, which is basically the deleted scene from Creed 2,
Right.
I felt that didn't quite land for me. I think it would have worked in Creed 2, funnily enough, with that scene. But I felt I would have preferred it if they'd have just done a Clubber Lang again. Not to call back on that film, but it's probably quite a good link. But if they'd have just made him evil and kind of a prick at the end, rather than having this sort of bonding moment, when I think they could have made a bit more of them having that confrontation. Anyway, thanks for letting me review the film, and I really appreciate all the good hard work that you guys do for the podcast. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you, Simon, for your good words. And that's a filmmaker there, someone who goes behind the camera, writes stuff themselves. So thank you. Yeah, interesting idea regarding you didn't like the resolving at the end. I guess I didn't hate it. I know it was coming. You almost had to have it because of their friendship or their relationship from the past. But sure, the character was. You could argue just the idea of Damien's a conflicted person, right? So you kind of hate him and love him at the same time. All right, this next voicemail is from Albert. He goes, sorry if I went a bit too long. I can't help myself when I'm talking about Rocky. Okay, here we go. Albert.
Hey, this is Albert, the Red Comet from Discord.
Hey.
And this is my Creed 3 review. Creed 3 is not the best movie in the Rocky franchise, but it's definitely not the worst. I think that Adonis has grown as a character in each movie. In the beginning, he's not nearly as likable as Rocky, but with each passing movie, he is becoming a much more likable character. And he should be different than Rocky. They shouldn't be exactly the same. I love the fact that in this movie we got to see him develop and try to retire legitimately, unlike, Rocky had such a hard time doing. And I love to see that he becomes more like Apollo, where he becomes an entertainer and a performer and a promoter. And I think this movie has a great villain. Damien or Dame, whatever we want to call him, is awesome. That we have a villain that schemes and plots and manipulates people. I love the fact that we finally have a cheater, a dirty boxer in the Rocky Rogues Gallery. And I think it's really cool that he used the Rocky narrative against Adonis, where he was, in many ways, the anti-Rocky. He's like, give me my one chance. And he did evil things with his one chance. Instead of being like an uplifting story about a would-be criminal that got a chance at the championship, he took advantage of it and became the evil champion. And I like the fact that he was so down and dirty. And the character was very intense and well acted by Jonathan Majors. It is really cool to see a hero and a villain that are so close. It might not be as good as Rocky and Drago, or Drago and Adonis in the second Creed movie, but it's really cool for them to be that connected, even all the way back into the past, short of them being like brothers or something. Right. But I think that Rocky is just referenced enough. This is a movie that takes place in the world of Rocky, but it would have been cool to see Sly, but it also kind of doesn't make sense because they jumped the timeline so far in the future. Yeah. You could argue that Sly could be, Rocky as a character could have passed away for how old he is. But it's cool that they left it open. We don't know. It could be anything. There could be another Rocky movie. He could show up in Creed 4 because we know that's happening now because this movie's been doing so well. Yeah. But even if he was in this movie, there's not a lot of room for him in this movie. So I think it's okay if we didn't have Sly. The franchise is going to have to grow without him. It sucks that he's unhappy with the situation, but hopefully things will get worked out. I think that Michael B. Jordan did a great job with the directing, especially for a youngster like me. I appreciated the anime. Reminded me of the good old days of Dragon Ball Z. I loved the double haymaker collision punch at the end. I think some of the chances he took were chances. They were risks. And some of them didn't work out. The mind battle was interesting, but I think it could have been done better. The only thing I didn't like about the movie was it was awesome that the final venue was outside, but it sucks that they had to use so much CG. I know they couldn't close down Dodgers Stadium for this, but it just comes off as really CG looking at the end. But I think the fights were really cool. They had a different perspective on them. You could tell that Michael B. Jordan was trying something different. The montages could have been better, I feel like. It was cool to see him punching down a tree. I appreciated that. But, he swung for the fences with a lot of the choreography, and I think it worked out. So good for him. I hope he directs the next one, maybe. You know, I think that we are heading in the right direction. This isn't as good as Creed 2, I don't think, but that's because that movie had so much baggage from the franchise to really pull it up. It's like definitely better than the first Creed, though. And I think you could make an argument that it is definitely in the middle of the franchise when we were ranking them. So I hope you guys enjoyed the movie, too, and I will be listening for this review. Well, and your review, of course. See you around.
Wow. Hey, look at this guy. That's great. Great energy. I love that. Albert, you should be a podcaster. Great energy, great insight, and you nailed it in the 4 minutes you're given there, and thank you for your support of the show. Loved what you said. Very fair. Very fair. And I like that positive energy. Everyone give a round of applause to Albert's positive energy. So that was great. I think that was a sound review, and I think your criticisms as you saw them were fair, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you had fun. At the end of the day, anyone that enjoyed the film, you had fun, right? So I'm glad you enjoyed the film, and I hope you enjoyed our review. All right, this is from Delbur Singh from Solihull, England.
Hi, Ryan, Kyle, and Katie. So this is my review for Creed 3. I've watched this film twice now at theatres. I do actually think it's badly written, thought out. These are the following examples. For example, the first fight where Creed fought Conlon. I mean, he dispatched of him like he was nothing, bearing in mind in the first Creed fight it was life and death, so that didn't really work well. The other thing, probably one of the worst things for me, was the Ali Foreman ticket for Rumble in the Jungle. This doesn't make sense. Ali, Foreman, they're from a different universe, because otherwise Creed would have fought them himself. This was Apollo.
Yeah, so of course Delbur doesn't know this, and like I said at the beginning, I haven't heard any of these, so this is cool. This is why I wanted to preface before I played these live and react to them live and read them live, is that I wanted to do my review and my thoughts without anyone saying, "Hey, Ryan took my idea." So that's very cool, Delbur, that you and I are simpatico about that. And of course, Kyle was infuriated by that Ali exists in this universe. You're right; it doesn't make sense. The time-space continuum, everything about so time, space, and characters does not make sense in Rocky. But yeah, but we continue. Yeah, okay, sorry to stop your email on that, but we'll go.
All of that is so. Come on, that could have been more factored in. Creed, when he sparred with Drago Jr., I mean, come on, this is comical. It looked like something out of Marvel. It just didn't make sense and didn't go with the flow of the film.
That was shoehorned in, yeah.
Another thing, Dame, when he was chatting to a reporter, I think it was his partner or whatnot, he goes, "I don't think Creed will make weight. However, Creed's a heavyweight. He doesn't need to make weight." I mean, all these boxing comments I'll make, I mean, Carl will know the score. But yeah, heavyweights, you don't need to make weight. Badly written. Another thing, why was Creed so mad Dame won the heavyweight title? I mean, for one, he gave him his shot. And second of all, he did time for him. So I didn't get that curve. Why was he so angry? Obviously, he was a bit dirty, but hey-ho, boxers do it all the time, and the referee let it go. Fight scene generally I thought was terrible. I mean, the first couple of rounds, last round, yeah, Rocky-esque, but the middle bits, come on, it's terrible. It's like, something like of a bad dream. I just did not get it. He overthought it, but it does not work for me. A few positives. Dame character, I thought he was really good. I think he's probably the best actor, sort of as a sort of the villain, so to say, since Apollo Creed. So I think he held the film. Also, Creed's relationship with his daughter, I think that worked really well. Perhaps Creed 4 or 5, maybe she's a fighter. Perhaps Rocky's in the corner. Who knows?
Yeah.
So, as a Rocky film, I'll give it 5 out of 10. First sort of Rocky stroke Creed film where I haven't felt goosebumps at all in the film. It was just crying out for Rocky. For example, when Creed, when he was sparring and was getting beaten up, you just thought, come on, if Rocky comes now, that will just, it'll be amazing. As a standalone film, if it weren't part of the universe, 6 out of 10. Generally, worst film from the Rocky Creed series. It's a shame, as the first one's a masterpiece, and I think this one's probably just killed it off, to be honest. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoy this, and we'll chat soon. Bye-bye.
Great, thank you. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, Delbur or Delbur. I do apologize. Great thoughts, great insight, and it's nice to hear not a negative review. Well, I mean, it wasn't a positive review. I just try to keep things positive on the show, but it's nice to hear opposing views. I do appreciate that. So thank you so much for that and good insight. And again, I get it. All the criticisms people have, I understand. It's legit criticism, so I get it. It's just they affect people differently, right? Like I hear it and I'm like, or I see what they saw and it doesn't bother me, but I get why it can bother people for sure. Okay, thank you so much for that, W. Okay, next we have Jack he's the host of the Drunk Bond podcast on the Last of the Action Heroes Podcast Network. Great guy, very funny. I suspect his review will be, I don't know, he might have a funny spin or he might be serious. We'll find out. Here we go.
All right. What's up, guys? Jack from the Drunk Bond podcast. Creed 3. Oh, where to begin? It was fine. The whole thing just kind of seemed like kind of rushed to get to that last fight. It's kind of all over the place. The fact that he could leave prison after 20 years, no fighting, he's not a professional, he's 0-0, and not only does he get a shot at the title, he beats the heavyweight champ. It's just ridiculous. I know suspension of disbelief, it's a movie, with Rocky 1 and Creed 1, the fact that they could get a shot at the title that quick is kind of crazy, but they frame it to where it's kind of believable. You go with it. For this, though, it's ridiculous. I thought the training was kind of too short. And then I'm sure you're all going to talk about that fight style at the end with the no crowd. I didn't mind it. I was enjoying the fight. And then I didn't mind that part if it was just for the middle rounds, or round 3 and 4. But when they came back and the girl had this, number 12 or round 11 in her hands, I was like, wait, is this a joke? That's the whole fight? It's over?
Yeah, I forgot about that. Snuck up on us. That's right.
So, yeah, I wasn't crazy about that. The Dame Felix fight was honestly probably the best fight of the movie.
Yeah.
I enjoyed hating the villain again, but again, they kind of abandoned that. I felt bad for him at the end. He was supposed to I thought he was going to fight dirty, and I was going to hate him even more. They didn't do that. He didn't exploit any of his flaws like they said he was going to. They just abandoned that. I don't know. It was fine. And then not having Sylvester Stallone involved just felt weird as a fan. Just kind of felt icky. Like I was
cheating on him,
betraying Sly, and it did lose a lot of heart by not having Rocky Balboa in the movie. So I don't know. There you go. It was okay. Not quite on the level of Creed 1 and Creed 2, but what are you gonna do? That's all I got. Next time there's a new Bond movie in, I don't know, at this pace, the year 2048, y'all be sure and come on and give me a review. If y'all aren't too busy with, by that point, Lang 4. Drago 6 or the George Washington Duke Chronicles, the prequel series coming to Hulu, coming soon. All right, guys, appreciate it. Talk to y'all soon.
Jack, you're the best. I love Jack. He's so good. I love him. Thank you, Jack, for that. Perfectly said, and thanks for dropping the humor. Love it. Check out his show. If you're a James Bond fan, check out his show on our network, the Drunk Bond podcast. Great stuff. Funny guy. Insightful. He's basically, he's like the more handsome, younger, richer version of me, but with the James Bond films. Okay. All right. Thank you, Jack. Lastly, saving the best for last, of course, our lovely co-host, Katie. She says, hey, guys, here's my audio recording of Creed 3. It's 15 minutes, but I guess I've taken up more than that amount of time if I join you in person, so hopefully okay. I have a feeling there will be a lot of discussion if several people write in or send a recording, so this will be a mega episode. Yeah, it's going to be a big episode. That's fine. So guys, sit back, relax. We'll close with Katie's review. She's the best. She deserves the longest.
Hey, guys, and welcome to the network, Dom. So this is Katie, and this is my Creed 3 review. I did struggle with how best to organize my thoughts, so hopefully this isn't too scatterbrained. And also of note, I did take extra care to try to remain objective. Okay, here we go. Creed 3. Oh, and spoiler alerts all around, just in case. I assume everyone knows that, but... So, okay, we're going to start with the good, which I have a few bullets in each category. That's how I decided to organize my thoughts. Starting with good. Casting. As anticipated, Jonathan Majors was outstanding, and the little girl playing Amar was not annoying. The actors playing the young versions of Adonis and Dame looked and acted the part. Although underutilized, Felicia Rashad as Marianne, aka Mama Creed, was fantastic as usual. In fact, her death scene made me tear up.
Because you're a sweetheart. That's what.
We get some great stuff from Wood Harris as Little Duke. His character really takes on a Tony Sr.-esque role, dropping some wisdom and trying to be the reasonable protector. Also super underutilized is the talented Florian Munteanu as Victor Drago. I was so glad to see him. I don't know, but the way he was utilized, it was just an odd choice in my opinion. More on that in a little bit, but it's also fun to see Pretty Ricky Conlan's character again. Having Stitch the Cutman return is nice for continuity. Felix was also really good, played by Jose Benavides, who I assume is an actual boxer and not an actor just based on his look. And the actress that plays his mom, Salinas Leva,
Orange is
I
the New
think.
Black. Have you seen that? Orange.
So those of you who watch Orange is the New Black will recognize her. And she's also really talented. And then in addition to having Drago and Conlan reprise their roles in Creed 3, there was also mention of Sperino and Wheeler, which further tied the movies together. Also in the plus column is the music. While the average original Rocky series fan may not appreciate such jungle junk music, as Paul would say, I thought the music added to the experience and suits the Creed series quite well. J. Cole, who I really like, and his record label produced the soundtrack. Ludwig Göransson scored the first two Creeds, while this one was scored by Joseph Shirley, who was previously a part of Ludwig's team. And we at least get a touch of the Rocky theme towards the end of the movie. Also on the good column is Marianne's death scene. In true Rocky fashion, someone has to die or be dead, apparently. In all seriousness, though, this scene was really impactful, particularly for us originalists, I think. Her delivery and even Donnie's or Michael B's reaction acting was just great. Probably one of the best scenes, I thought, of the movie. So she's talking to Apollo, who's really Adonis, about Adonis and how angry she was, not for the affair necessarily, but dying, leaving her, so to speak, and that Adonis is what saved her. Ugh, what closure for both of them and kind of their arcs throughout the series. That made me cry. It was really moving. And on that front, we finally got a mention of the older two Creed kids. And big shocker, they did not care for Donnie. Although it's not his fault. I wouldn't either if I were in their shoes, most likely. The family dynamic, I thought, was also really good. The Creed family dynamic. While I'm still not necessarily invested in Adonis and Bianca's relationship, they do continue to grow in this third movie. It was also heartening to see them roll so effortlessly with Mara's deafness and all of the sign language. So there were quite a few positive things about this movie. Okay? Now, let's move on to the not so good things. Felix as the heavyweight champion. First of all, Felix is great, but I do not buy him for the heavyweight champion for a second. Middleweight, maybe. And he was supposed to go up against Victor Drago, who's huge. It just doesn't make sense for the title. Like, it does. Also, given the strange time jump and the events of Creed 2, it seems like, I guess I was surprised. It seems like Drago should have or would have been the champ or even come and gone by this time, given the time jump, that he's just now challenging this tiny champion, the little tiny champion. It was a strange choice for me. Also, so speaking of timelines in Rocky movie fashion, the timeline's questionable, at least for me. Maybe I was the only one, but okay, so we opened in 2002, I think, and then we jumped to 15 years later, which would be 2017, where we're shown Adonis wins the title from Conlan in events that apparently happened between Creed 1 and 2. I don't know. I guess I thought he won the belt from Wheeler in Creed 2. Or was the Conlan rematch that were shown in Creed 3 just a regular fight and not for the title? At any rate, then we're shown present day, which is 2023 or not. I don't know. I might be a moron, but the math doesn't seem to add up given the 7-year time jump. Maybe I'm missing something.
No, you're not missing
although timeline issues are par for the course, I guess, in this world, eh? Okay, also not good. Lackluster training montage. The usually super fun and impressive training montages are the epitome of Rocky movies, okay? I was like bored, actually. So this was a huge, enormous miss for me, as were the fight effects. This might be an uncommon take, as I haven't heard anyone else mention this. Although I did purposefully like not seek out reactions or reviews as not to taint my own. But I had issues with the effects of the fights.
Okay, here.
Most notably the final fight. It seemed off to me, or overly produced, like cartoonish. This is not a Marvel movie. This is a drama. I'm not sure technically what it's called, if it's CGI or something else, but it really took me out of the movie. Even the sound effects were extreme. Now, in a similar way, the creative choice in that last fight, showcasing Adonis's, or maybe it's both of the fighters' mindset of just the two of them in the ring, that was fine. That worked for me. And even using the cage fence component, harkening back to their traumatic past, would have worked if it wasn't shown in such a cartoony, marvelly way. I don't know. It just seemed to me that the experience that they were going for here requires more realism to tug at our emotions, but that's not what we got. It was like, I don't know if it was directorial or creative choice, but it fell way short for me. And I thought that the fight between Dame and Felix earlier on in the movie was way more entertaining and emotionally staked than the final fight with Adonis. Okay, I'll stop harping for the not so great things. And now I have another category of just like, it's neither good or bad, but it's just observations, generally speaking. So the elephant in the room is no Rocky. There's no explanation or even acknowledgement that he's gone. In my head, he's in Vancouver with Robert and Logan. But his name only comes up once in the context that Apollo gave an underdog a chance, and so should Adonis. So clearly they wanted to distance Creed from Rocky moving forward and get out of Rocky's shadow, and that they did. So, question. Should the antagonist in a Rocky or Creed movie be more appealing than the main character? Following suit for Creed films, the opponent is very charismatic, or we're sympathetic to their character, or both. Drago and Dame in particular are really great characters that draw us in, which is great. But I continue to find myself more interested in the rival of Creed than Creed himself. Sort of in a similar vein. So Drago in Creed 3, this is just an observation that I found odd, and I'm curious what others think of it. Drago is willing to help Creed spar despite losing out on the chance at the title. So they must be pretty good friends at this point nowadays. P.S. That would be a super fun backstory for Creed 4 with some running on the beach scenes, maybe. But so his hand is healed enough to spar and help Creed train, but not actually fight. And if I were in his shoes, I guess I was supposed to get a chance at the title. I don't know. I guess I would have been pissed. And anyway, I'll take more Drago any way I can get it. Then there were, I guess I noticed quite a few parallels to the Rocky series, which I appreciated. I assume that they were purposeful, but was it just like a nice touch for us Rocky nerds that noticed it and not really intended for the younger Creed only audience, or would they not notice these things? I don't know. So a big one, I'm curious if anybody noticed this too. So there was a part where I literally had to do a double take if it was actually Adonis or Apollo. He had headgear on with a mustache. Obviously it was one of the training scenes, but he had a facial expression just like Apollo. And I like I said, I had to do a double take. It was really that I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know if that was like an intentional thing or not, but I've always thought that was one of the things that Michael B. Jordan has going for him, that he really does resemble a young Carl Weathers. Anybody else? I don't know. So,
actually, additionally, pause that. Yeah, I thought that too. I thought that too. I thought Adonis's hair was. I hate this. I don't know how to say it without saying it, but his afro was a little bit bigger in this film than and he looked more like the Apollo from the 70s. So I agree. There was definitely. Adonis, the character, looked like his father. He looked aged. He aged more for sure in this film. Granted, it's in the future, but I totally agree, Kate. And we failed to mention that. So you're the first one to mention that. So, but I did notice. Yes, to answer your question, but good observation. Did anyone hear that sound? That weird sound that came over? Was that my end or was that Katie's? Was that like a? I don't know if that. Anyways, whatever. Okay, let's keep listening.
So there was the scene where Donnie trains running up that little hill in LA overlooking the city, very reminiscent of, I guess, both the Rocky Steps and the Rocky IV mountain, where Rocky yells, "Drago!" I loved that Adonis kept the mantra from Rocky of one step at a time, one punch at a time, one round at a time. I did really like that. Also reminiscent of the Rocky series was little Tony. In this movie gives like boxing pointers to Amara, which is reminiscent of Rocky V, where Paulie has to show Robert. Then there's the whole becoming friends with an old opponent and also coming out of retirement to fight the big bad guy is reminiscent of both Rocky III and Rocky IV. I'm sure there's a ton of other callbacks to Rocky that I am just like not recalling right now. So I'm curious what others have noticed. So that's kind of basically my good and the bad. Now, my final thoughts and my rating, I suppose this depends on which lens you view this movie from. A standalone film or a Rocky movie. As a standalone, it's perfectly fine, and I was entertained. And apparently it did really well in terms of box office, which I fully expected, given that they marketed the shit out of this movie, including tons of pre-release screenings. There was little competition at the theater that weekend. And then just like the overarching changing landscape of movie-going experience, et cetera, yada, yada, yada. At any rate, there certainly was a lot of hype surrounding this film. I've literally been asked by multiple people to go see this movie, so I'm likely looking at repeat viewings ahead of me in the theater. So ultimately, out of 10, as a standalone film,
7.
I'd rate this as a 6 out of 10.
Oh, close. Okay.
Now, as a Rocky or even Creed film,
here we go.
It ranks poorly for me.
Oh.
The fact that there's no epic fight, and that the training montage is just so makes it hard to be a good Rocky movie. Mm-hmm. I was emotionless leaving the theater.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Which is unique to this film only. All other Rocky... Now, I had a smile on my face. Sure, I was entertained, but it did not leave me with some type of feeling like all of the other Rocky and Creed films did. Additionally, there's the fact that the supporting cast overshadows the leads. Again, I'm not saying that Tessa Thompson and Michael B. Jordan are bad actors. I'm not saying that. It's just that everyone else is so much better, in my opinion. For example, if they cast different but competent actors in the leads, it really wouldn't make a difference to me. But can you imagine someone else playing Rocky or Paulie or Adrian? The bar is set high for Rocky movies. For me, the scenes that I felt emotion for or am excited about are surrounding the supporting cast of this movie, not the Creeds. This was a theme in the first 2 movies also, though I thought both of those were superior to this last one. Therefore, my ranking as a Rocky/Creed movie is 9th. And if I'm being generous, I'll even let it tie with Rocky V in last place. So that's it. Now we're set up for Creed 4. What do you guys think or maybe hope that will be in the next installment? I would like to see Drago with Creed in his corner versus Dame. I think that would be really awesome. That'd be a really good movie. But that's unlikely to happen as that's not Creed-centric. So that's probably not going to happen. But I am looking forward to hearing about how all of you reacted. like if there's common themes that we all share, and also like kind of where we differ. That'll be really interesting. So Ryan and Kyle, don't get any ideas about replacing me. You ain't never getting rid of me. And Dom, I don't sweat you. Just kidding. Everyone have a fantastic rest of your Sunday and talk soon. Katie.
Isn't she the best, folks? Isn't Katie the best? We would never get rid of Katie. She is amazing. And yeah, she nailed that. Louise said in the chat that Katie is nailing this review. Very well said. Very well spoken. Much better than this ham and egger. Not much to add, Katie. Of course, you're the tail end. Maybe I should have saved you for last because everyone might have bowed out by now. But hopefully they haven't because they're missing out some amazing reviews. Yeah, thank you so much for everyone who's joined us. Of course, Katie and myself and Kyle will share our quick little thoughts on our next time we get together to record. But Katie, you nailed it. Well said. Well thought out. I'm not surprised by your take, and I'm not surprised really by anyone's. I think this is a film that everyone who feels what they feel, I think I get it. You know what? It's an odd film that way where, yeah, the criticisms at the film, I get and understand. The people that don't want to see the film, I don't understand that to a certain degree, but I guess that's their choice. It's a free world, hopefully still for most people, that you don't have to watch it. Absolutely. I just say if you haven't watched it, then you don't get to comment. And there's a podcast out there, I won't say which one, but they've commented on it, and you haven't seen it. You got to watch it. You can't comment on something you haven't seen. And you can watch it and crap all over it, but at least you watch it, right? But at the end of the day, I do appreciate everyone's feelings, thoughts. Everyone was even the people that didn't like the film, it was well thought out, well said, and there was no personal attacks. And yeah, Sly, we love you. This is my final thoughts on this. We love you. We love your films. We love your character that you created in Rocky. It's just, we again are sorry that you're going through what you're going through regarding the franchise, regarding the producers. But whether you like it or not, people are entertained by the universe you created. So, I don't know. I guess there's worse things in life. There's worse things in life. All right, guys. Thanks a lot, and thanks a lot for everyone that's watched and listened to this Creed 3 review. Again, if there's something we missed or something you think we should have said, send us a voicemail, 3 minutes long-ish is good, or an email, and ask us to review or to talk about the thing that we should have done or to say what you want to say. This is a film that will be around for a while, obviously, to talk about. It's new. It's the newest film in the Rocky franchise. Is it the last? Will there be a Creed 4? There might be a Creed universe on Prime Amazon, or Amazon Prime, I should say. Apparently, that's being talked about. So it's continuing, folks, and we're certainly not going to stop talking about it. But this is the only full-length episode. There won't be any seasons on this film, but definitely this film will come up in discussion. So pay attention, stay tuned, and we'll see you on the next one. Oh, I guess I got to do this myself. Well, that's it. The episode's over. I didn't hear no bell.
I just want to